Insomnia woke me up. I discovered that there's a way to think about sleep. There's a way to talk about sleep and experience it that nobody's talking about.
What do you think is the true major cause of insomnia?
Lifestyle is important, but the underlying thing, it must be something that happened and then your associative memory is still holding on to that. Everybody in general, they're not sleeping, but they metabolized.
What do you mean by that? Physically metabolized or mentally metabolized?
Both. Mentally, they know they earned a certain amount of sleep, but they had a relationship with life that is not showing up when it's time to go to sleep.
Derek Lacey, thank you for joining me, my friend.
Thanks for having me here, man. It's exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I'm super excited. So I think I was first introduced to you because you became a member of the Way Forward, or you had come to one of the first confluences, or both. I think
kind of both. Happened. It was in the men's group, I think, where we first got to know each other.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. And a few of the members of the Way Forward actually tipped me off that you are an expert. I'm sure you take issue with that statement, as I do too. Yeah. But you are quite knowledgeable and experienced on the topic of sleep. And I was like, why didn't he let me know? Like, what's the deal with that? I've done one other episode that I guess was sort of sleep-centric, probably different in terms of the theme of focus related to sleep. And that was with Nathaniel Solis. And I'm sure we'll get into a few topics related to that. And then, of course, I guess the other one would be Joel Schaefer. But again, not specifically pertaining to sleep and sleep issues, but like the ability to dream and also dream when awake. So this is the first episode that I've actually devoted to talking about sleep, which I'm really stoked for. So if we could start with you just sharing your background, a little bit about yourself and what led you to become very knowledgeable on the topic of sleep.
Well, the expert part comes in through my experience of insomnia. Like I was an expert insomniac. I always considered myself like the Greg Louganis or Michael Phelps of insomnia, like a gold medal insomniac winner. Like I had the stories of how bad it was.
How bad was it for you? Like what did it look like?
3 days at a time of not sleeping.
At all?
At all, yeah.
No way.
Yeah. And I would, I went camping once for a 3-day weekend, but 2 nights, like no sleep in the river the entire time, no technology.
Yeah. So no dirty electricity, no
Nothing.
Non-native EMFs that are disrupting you. Your circadian biology was good to go because you're out in nature.
Yeah.
And even then.
Yeah.
Wow.
That happened a lot. It started to happen. I always struggled with sleep since I was a little kid. One of my first memories was not being able to sleep. Like at 3 years old, I went to Catholic school, but like in pre-kinder, they had us take naps. I could never sleep. Growing up, I couldn't sleep. I'd always experienced a lot of anxiety because I'd hear my parents' television as they go through like the Tonight Show and Cheers and the Jeffersons. And like right when that Jeffersons theme song was coming on, I was like, I'd start to panic because I'd start to feel scared. And a lot of stuff happened growing up, just random things, but a lot of violence at the house. They broke into the house a couple of times. A lot of lawn jobs and eggs. Bullets were shot, went through the house once.
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
That's a lot. I've experienced that too. So I know. Not bullets going through the house, but bullets outside my house. Mm-hmm. This was as an adult, but I often wonder because my son has sleep issues that, we actually had to get him a different bed because we wanted his bed to be tucked in to the corner of the room. So if there was we were never targeted anyway, but we lived next to meth dealers in Oklahoma. And so there was a lot of violence outside our house. And we ended up just scrapping that whole idea. And he and I would sleep in the living room because it was in the central location of the house with not a lot of windows. Yeah. So the point is, I totally understand where you're coming from on that, but I can't imagine it as a kid. And I wonder with my son if it's a lot of his sleep issues are because of the same thing, a lot of the same type of stuff.
Yeah. And I'm sure my dad will listen to this. So, this is not anything on him. I always felt safe with my dad there, but for years, maybe I wasn't vocal, but it's like the inner question I had was, can we please just get an alarm? Yeah. An alarm system would do so much. And when I would sleep well, it's when my dad hired a private security guard to patrol outside. And he did that once in a while, either shortly after a break-in, or, you know, he had a few businesses, and sometimes he'd have to fire an employee and they'd threaten, you know, it's like to do something. And I'd see my dad putting like the baseball bats to make sure the window, you know, to block the window from opening.
God, dang, man.
So,
and how old were you at this time?
I mean, this was like from 3 to all the way through high school.
Wow. Yeah. I mean,
I had this. And so
that's a lot.
And on top of that, my brother and sister are 7 and 8 years older than me. So they were going through their high school phase, sneaking out all the time, their friends coming over, and like my dad constantly busting dudes trying to like peep Tom on my sister.
Yeah.
You know, so there was always action outside my window.
Yeah.
So I was always on guard for that, you know.
Totally understandable.
Yeah. So, but it was almost normal. If you had asked me as a kid, you know, how I related to sleep, you know, it was like, oh, I guess it's okay. Just, it felt normal. And I didn't, you know, like when I went to college, it's when it started showing itself a little bit more. Like I couldn't fall asleep, and then like I couldn't wake up for classes, you know, and it still wasn't really, I didn't call it insomnia. But then I moved to California, and about 4 months in, I dealt with some environmental issues. I had a 2nd-story apartment in the valley, which is just as hot as Texas in the summer. No central AC. I was next to this loud gate, right? So it's like environmental issues started exacerbating the problem. And then it just got into my head, so to speak. And that's when it started happening, like one day at a time. And then it got to the point where if it happened one night that I didn't sleep at all, it was pretty much guaranteed to happen a second night. And then I learned to manage that through the, you know, various meds, Ambien, Xanax, and then that would stop working. So I'd have to rotate in the NyQuil, Dramamine, and none of the soft stuff like regular herbs. It's like nothing.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Like it did nothing to me. So I got through my rotations and kind of managed that cycle. But a contract I signed with Insomnia was after about 2 years, I got a bartending job. Ran into some dudes, a bartender from a bar I used to frequent when I was in San Antonio at UTSA. And I rented his buddy an apartment. I was working in an apartment complex. And they're like, you should get into bartending, and, you know, you could make what you're making now, working 40 hours a week working 2 or 3 nights. I'm like, that sounds interesting. And I'm like, the other thing that sounded interesting was like not having to wake up to an alarm clock. So I decided to get into the restaurant business, started bartending, and that became the crutch and the handcuff that just put me in this insomnia cycle for the next 15 years.
15 years?
Yeah.
Wow. So when did you get out of this? Like how long?
2015.
Okay. So it's been 11 years since you've been able to resolve this now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And going back, like the first question I have is, when you were a baby, did you have trouble sleeping then? Did your mom relate you were bad?
Yeah, I found out later that I didn't sleep so well back then.
Okay. And your older siblings, did they have any sleep issues?
No.
Okay. But it still could have been, because this is my next question, like related to the environment, obviously, like this hypervigilance, this feeling of lack of safety. Do you think that was a big piece of it as well?
I think that's a big piece. And this is outside of my kind of realm of how I look at sleep now, but it does feel like I came into this world with something.
Okay.
Yeah, it does. Absolutely. Because, you know, to this point,
like whether it's a past life thing or just like a patterning that was passed down generationally.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah. It's definitely something I came to resolve, that I can say. And it's been the gift, you know, it follows me everywhere, but other gold medal insomniacs will know what I'm talking about. but you can do everything correctly, and you can even be 90% there, right? It's almost like you're watching a game and a team is up by 50 points with a minute left.
Or like the Spurs being up by 30 points with...
yeah, we can talk about that. Yeah, there's...
then De'Aaron Fox. No.
I'm glad you said that, because I'm just like, it's so annoying right now. It's like with the truther thing, it's like you can't even watch a basketball game anymore.
Dude, I
right?
still love basketball. Like even if the refs are still rigging it to some degree and things like this, which I think that there is probably a lot of validity to that. Mm-hmm. And like even coaches making bad calls, or even the example of Terry Rozier recently, who was clearly throwing games because he was involved in gambling circles. Mm-hmm. But to the level of them putting magnets in the rims to allow players to make shots. Dude, I grew up around basketball. Like my dad was a college basketball coach until I was 9 years old. And I played basketball my whole life. I've been in the gym with some of the best shooters in the world, and in a gym where it's like some random high school gym. And I'm telling you, first off, the idea that they might have put magnets in the high school rim is insane. So let's throw that out. That's like absurd. Yeah. Just for a little, like camp or something like that. But I have seen dudes make 50 threes in a row, or like 40 threes in a row, or like 30 threes in a row myself with my own two eyes. Like that's just how good some of these players are. And when people say that they're putting magnets in the rims, that's where it's like, you've lost me a little bit. Refs throwing games, ref making bad calls intentionally because they're being paid off to do it a certain way, and all the other things I named possibly. Yeah, like I totally could see where that is. But like, I love watching dudes that are the best in the world at their specific craft, especially because basketball is such a technical game. Yeah. Like play to the best of their ability. Even with all of that occurring, like I can still sit and enjoy a game and not be so emotionally invested where it's like ruining my next day. Right. You know?
Right. And also if you've played, I mean, I played high school, right? I wasn't great, but still I feel like I understand the game. But I remember there's 3 players I've seen in my life live where it was clear how special they were. But it was Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, and Kawhi Leonard, where you could be sitting in the nosebleeds, and then as soon as you can just, if you didn't know anything, you're like that one. You just feel there. You just feel, you see the way they move. It's just different.
They just exude excellence.
Yeah. And so when you get, let's just say, that on both sides of the floor, it's like it's way beyond the possibility of rigging, and to get that good, to be as skillful as Wemby. I see him like, kicking soccer balls like he's playing hacky sack, right?
Yeah,
like it's insane what he can do. To imagine like being that good and then being like, hey, I'll give you extra $10 if you miss this 3 years. Like it makes no sense. But
no.
But I digress. And the thing I was going to say, it's like, so Spurs, same exact thing. That night, I watched the first half and then I went to bed. I'm like, I need to get in the zone here. I'm not going to stay up looking at a screen till 11 o'clock at night. But it's like waking up. It's like, really, they had it in the bag, and it's the same feeling as going to sleep. Like you have it in the bag, and then it's just like this gremlin jumps out of your chest.
You're doing all the right things.
Yeah, and it's like it feels like you're possessed by a monster.
Yeah,
right. And you don't know what happened, and it's hard to relate to that. It's really confusing.
Yeah, because in the holistic health space, which is like this audience, I could see where someone might feel like, it's just diet. It's just making sure you don't have dirty electricity running through. It's making sure you're sleeping in an environment that is totally blacked out, so there's no blue light creeping through, or some of these things, right? Turning your Wi-Fi off at night, and that will give you good sleep. Yet there are still so many people out there who are doing all of those things that are struggling to sleep. Is that what you found?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what you were doing.
Yeah, that's what I was doing all my life. And then when I see that frustration in people, I recognize it. They've been gaslit, right? Or they're told, in our DNA is this like pattern where you wake up in the middle of the night for a few hours, and it's just like, yeah, okay, maybe that's true, but that's not the world we live in now, and that's not what's happening to me. Like people know. I call it, it's like getting a paycheck and then looking at it and knowing that you worked more than that you should have gotten more money, and then showing that to your employer, and they're like, well, there's deductions, there's Social Security, and it's like, I realize that this isn't my first paycheck.
Right.
Like I know something's missing and I don't know how to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah.
And so that's what like the gold medal insomniac is experiencing, and everybody in general, they're not sleeping what they metabolized. That's that. And that's where the suffering comes from.
Say that again.
They're not sleeping what they metabolized.
What do you mean by that? Like physically metabolized or like figuratively, like mentally metabolized? Both. Okay.
Yeah. Mentally, they know they earned a certain amount of sleep, but they produced ATP.
Yeah.
They collected adenosine and the adenosine receptors. They worked on their melatonin all day, even if it was indirectly, right? They had a relationship with life that is not showing up when it's time to go to sleep. And so they know something is off. And then they're being told, try this, do this. And they're being placed in this linear pattern where it's like, okay, I guess I have to start earning my sleep. I have to like strategize and do these things in order to be able to like, I guess something's wrong with me, right? Yeah, I guess it's all these things. And they become disconnected without realize they're becoming disconnected because nobody's ever there to talk to them about what's really happening underneath all of that, the energetics.
Yeah. I would love to talk about that. So you talked about that modern humans have sort of lost their relationship with sleep. What does that look like in your mind? What do you mean by that?
Well, the mistake, I think, the distraction is that like there's an assumption that humans have always had a good relationship with sleep because they were essentially camping.
Yeah, right. Living amongst nature. Yeah.
And then technology came along. Right. And electricity and then light at night and industrialization and people working longer and then
people egging your house at midnight.
That, right. Like you have to have good transportation to get away. It's like, yeah, no, it's total. So it's very obvious that was a problem. People stopped sleeping as well. But then the people that created this technological movement are like, wait up. I got it. I know we caused this problem, but I can use the thing that we used to cause the problem to figure out what's going on. Right?
Yeah.
So for the first time ever, we started asking questions like, why do we sleep? And what causes sleep in order to find out how we can start sleeping better. I call that the frequency of the problem because you're starting, I was just listening to you and Dr. Steve Young talk about this the other day with physics, right? It starts like downstream of consciousness.
Yeah.
And it's just like, you're never going to figure anything out.
Right.
So they're starting downstream of where the problem was occurring. And now they're going under the hood and they're trying to ask like a really primal, trying to get a primal answer out of a brand new question. Why do we sleep? It's like you didn't have to ask somebody that 1,000 years ago.
Right.
But they're looking essentially at what happens when you don't sleep, right? And then they're looking at the symptom of that and then assuming that the reason why we sleep is to prevent that symptom. Does that make sense?
Yes, it totally makes sense.
Yeah. So the reason why we sleep is for memory consolidation, right? And it's like, that's not untrue, but now it's placing me in the frequency of the problem because I'm in direct relationship with a consequence of not sleeping and then not being able to consolidate memories. And it's introduced some really poor sleep psychology.
Right. Okay.
Now I'm shooting a free throw with the game on the line. Maybe I'm playing for a country where they're going to come after me if I miss it. Right.
Like for the Soviets during the Soviet era.
I mean, it's that kind of pressure.
Yeah.
And it's the frequency of the problem because no matter what you do from that point, it's not addressing the underlying issue because it's not inviting a solution, a point of contact from outside of the closed loop, right? Of like, this is everything that we know, in the world ever about sleep. And really the thing that's supplying sleep is so much deeper than that.
Yeah. I always, anytime I have conversations on like the claims of the modern scientific community regarding like what we know in air quotes, just the hubris of man to think that we know at that level is insane to me. And then also to think that we can tinker with specific things within that false premise that we're coming from, and it will lead to long-term positive outcomes is just insane. It's insane. And it's pervasive not only amongst allopathic medicine and things like sleep, I'd imagine too, but just all of society when it comes to, like I was interviewing in my last episode, Carolyn Allen, who has Beam Minerals, and she was talking about like mono supplementation where you're just taking one specific mineral and saying, oh, I can't sleep. Sleep's a perfect example. I can't sleep well. I'm just going to take a shit ton of magnesium. Like the downstream effects in your body of doing that, like you're like, there's so many consequences to that.
It speaks to what I was talking about with getting the sleep that you metabolized. I'm not against magnesium. I think everybody has the right to figure out where they are and what works best for them. And I know everybody wants to be in integrity with what they're doing. And sometimes taking a benzo is like being in integrity with where you are.
If you're at your wit's end and you can't figure it out, like taking a Xanax in your case, like, fuck, dude, I'm just trying to sleep. That's it.
Dude, I took a Xanax the only time I flew to Europe, right? I was like freaked out about it. I took a Xanax. It was like the coolest experience of my life. It's like I slept 8 hours, had some wine, ate a meal, and we were there. I'm like, this is easier than flying from San Antonio to Dallas. But what I was going to say with the metabolism, it's like, okay, they say that the reason for magnesium is because the prime reason is that the soil has been depleted and therefore we're not getting magnesium from food. Okay, well, first question is, when are you taking that magnesium? Are you taking it during the day or are you taking it an hour before bed because it's making you feel a certain way and providing a certain calm and maybe, assisting this mental process that's really caused by perhaps, we don't know. We don't know what it could be caused by. But on top of that, there's like a hero's journey with all these things that I talk about, like being metabolized. Melatonin, it starts as tryptophan, right? It moves over to serotonin and then it's synthesized into melatonin. So like by the time it becomes melatonin, it's just like wow, like what a journey, Yeah. Same thing for adenosine and the same thing for magnesium. It's like there's something about consuming it, digesting it, right? Being a part of the soil that it came from, regardless of what's in it. And it's just different when you're supplementing it at the end.
Totally.
And it's just, it's like buying broccoli from the grocery store versus eating it at home, right? There's something to that.
Yep.
Now, is it a good idea to keep magnesium on hand? Yeah. Like I do, because you don't, it meets me where I'm at sometimes. So it's not good to just have this like yay or nay mentality.
It's not good to become reliant on it though either.
Yeah, I would say not.
Not ideal, but like if that's where you're at and that's the only thing that you found to be able to sleep, like in your case with the Xanax, it's like, fuck, dude, but you have to be cognizant of the potential downstream effects of doing that on a consistent basis. And there's this like trade-off, The downstream
effect is that you don't know how much you need, right? It's like putting fuel into a car, into a tank where the gauge isn't working.
Yeah.
How do you know when to stop, right? Like what is really causing this deficiency that's like, it's affecting my central nervous system, but I'm sure like on one hand, it's magnesium, but how much am I being dehydrated by my relationship to self, my relationship to God or lack of relationship to God, or not knowing how to be in relationship to God as it pertains to my sleep and my life, right? It's like, it's different to be integrated with that, with all aspects of self. And so if you're just taking magnesium and sleep is here to provide messages for us, it communicates with us, then, like if I had taken magnesium in 2010 and it worked, and then I just became addicted to it or reliant on it, my life would be completely different. I would not have created the same kind of fulfillment and purpose and really, I can't say that for sure, but I know sleep woke me up or insomnia woke me up. And I'm glad that nothing
ironic.
worked. But I'm glad nothing worked.
Yeah, that's so ironic. Insomnia woke you up. Yeah.
Let's keep that.
I like that. Insomnia woke you up. That's cool. Okay, so from a very like high level perspective, I guess let me ask this: when you started sleeping well in 2015 or around then, like what did you come to realize about sleep that you had been getting wrong all along, despite doing all of the things that most people think are going to work to help you sleep?
I was so defensive when people would try to help me. I felt like they didn't understand me. And as soon as somebody tried to suggest something that was a little bit more in the realm of psychology, understanding yourself, like I would get really defensive because I'm like, you don't understand what is going on with me. Right?
Yeah.
Quit trying to like act like you know what's up or that it's mental. It was really offensive for somebody to suggest that it was something in my mind.
It's almost like a gaslight in that point in time. Mm-hmm. And I'd imagine you've now come full circle and like, yes, they were correct, but it felt like a gaslight at that point in time.
Both are true.
Yeah. Because it's like, for example, with my wife, when she used to have lupus and rheumatoid arthritis, she now realizes so much of that was psychospiritual and emotional. But at the time when people would be like, oh, it's all in your head. She even had a family member say, oh, I knew you'd grow out of this eventually. She was like, that's so gaslighting to suggest that like I'm inducing this consciously. And at the same time, it's like there's an element of truth to that with different context though. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's like they were right without understanding why they were right.
Yes. Yeah.
They just threw a dart, and they hit a balloon. It's like, yeah, it's going to happen.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so the change for me happened when I was bartending Golden Handcuffs, man. I did that for like 16 years. And I just knew I had to get out. I didn't know how to get out. I turned 40 years old. The contract I made with myself was like, you're not going to bartend past 40, but like I turned 40, I was still bartending. I'm like, I got to do something. So I started looking for things to do. I was like chiropractic school maybe, or I don't know, anything that's like, I was preferring something 2 years or less, right? I thought
you were already holistically leaning at this time?
No.
Oh.
No.
And you were looking at chiropractic school though?
Let me do so. Yeah, because I had a bad back. That was like one of the, I've had a bad back forever. And I had a bad back forever. I have a strong back now. I love lifting heavy things. Just, I found a health coaching program online and it was like a 6-month certificate. I'm like, sweet. Like I can like make a change with my life, but it's like, it's only 6 months. And it was through the Health Coach Institute. And I started that, still not sleeping well, but I'm like, I did start taking better care of myself. I was working out, things like that. But what I wasn't expecting was for them to get into like the kind of NLP based, psychology model. And I was introduced to this idea of transformation. Like I was like a super normie up until that point, right? And I was not self-aware, nothing like that. And it was the first time that I actually challenged this idea that one, a transformation was possible. And then two, that it would come from how I was thinking, right? And a belief that I had. And so I entertained this idea that my inability to sleep was perhaps belief-based. And that was really confronting, but I mean, this is a school. I'm seeing all these other people, like I'm seeing how it's demonstrated that having a different belief could actually, result in a different outcome. And so that was huge for me, because just contemplating that perhaps it was coming from within, like I saw that even if it was just like one more hour of sleep, I could tell that hour came from, back then I didn't think about it this way, but it's like metabolization, or, it was my own gatekeeping that created that extra sleep.
What do you mean by that? Your own gatekeeping?
That it was coming from within. Yeah. That it wasn't, the pillow or the mattress or...
Wasn't any of the external inputs?
Nothing exogenous. Yeah. Wow. So that was like the sourdough starter that I started like cultivating and feeding. And then I got to a point where I could regularly count on at least 5 hours of sleep. And I came into this coaching program not having any expectation of being a sleep coach, but I immediately became a sleep coach because I'm like, this is my thing. Like, it was just very obvious.
You had direct experience with it.
I had direct experience of it, but I also realized that it was my aha, kind of waking up like to the system, the way so many of us have woken up to like, oh, like it's sort of, the system's broken, right? And the way they talk about sleep, if you go to like any sleep website, the way they talk about it is it's really, bigger picture now, I see it's a funnel into like a pharmaceutical, but it's the frequency of the problem, and it's addressing like everything that we've tried, and it's just has a low charge.
Yeah.
And so I discovered that there's a way to think about sleep. There's a way to talk about sleep and experience it that nobody's talking about. So that's kind of where I've been coming from that entire time since that happened. There's not like a minute that goes by that I don't think about, like, I've been exploring the mechanism. I've always thought of it as like a switch, but I've been in relationship to that ever since then, trying to like really understand like what sleep is, like what is really happening here that nobody's discussing.
Hey everyone, I'm excited to share something that our team at The Way Forward has been working on behind the scenes. This September 23rd through the 27th, I'd love for you to join me and a small group of men and women who care deeply about health, freedom, living intentionally, and see the world a little differently for an unforgettable private island experience in Belize called the Way Forward Island Experience. We'll all be staying together at Pranamaya, a private island wellness resort surrounded by oceans, lagoons, beaches, and nature in every direction. The resort itself is beautiful, but what stood out most to me was how intentionally designed everything is. From the wellness spaces and incredible food to the way the entire environment naturally encourages you to slow down, unplug, and be present. I don't know of any other resort that has complimentary raw optics and grounding sheets in the room, and that's just scratching the surface. So a few weeks ago, I traveled down to Belize to visit the resort myself because I wanted to see it before inviting anybody there. And honestly, I was completely blown away. And I had high expectations because several of my friends have been there. And even then, I was blown away. Part of what makes this experience special is Belize itself. You land in Belize, take a short scenic flight down the coastline, hop on a boat, and gradually find yourself arriving somewhere that feels increasingly removed from everyday life. There's something about Belize that feels like stepping into a slower, simpler way of life. I mean, Belize didn't get electricity until the late 1960s, so it's still catching up in a good way. It's a country with incredibly kind people, abundant raw nature, beautiful tropical landscapes, and a way of living that feels more connected to the natural world than what many of us experience in day-to-day life. The experience of being in Belize and at Pranamaya is really, really difficult to describe. Photos and videos don't do it justice, and even trying to explain the feeling of being there is completely inadequate. All I know is I left thinking, people are going to absolutely love this place. If you've ever attended Confluence, it's similar in that sense. Confluence has grown largely through word of mouth because there's something about the experience that becomes difficult to explain unless you've actually, ironically, experienced it. And this feels very, very similar. So we'll be gathering there for an unforgettable few days of incredible farm-to-table food and fresh caught fish, meaningful conversations, island adventures, time in nature, time on the water, and plenty of space to simply enjoy being human again. And of course, we'll be doing some things together like Qigong, yoga, breath work, and some other experiences. And there will be opportunities to explore the Belizean jungle as well as the island and other beach landscapes. But we intentionally designed this experience with plenty of unstructured time because some of the best parts of the experience is just being together, hanging out with like-minded people. This is not designed to be a conference. It's not designed to be a highly structured retreat where every minute is scheduled, but it's simply not a vacation either. It's something closer to a curated island gathering that sits somewhere between the two. I know many people listening have already consumed countless podcast episodes, gone down endless rabbit holes, attended events, watched documentaries, and spent years learning. And this experience is not about more information. It's about stepping away from everyday life for a few days and surrounding yourself with remarkable people in a place that makes slowing down, reconnecting, and being fully present and just having fun feel effortless. So if this resonates with you, I'd love to have you join us. You can learn more at thewayforward.com/Belize. And again, the way forward is spelled thewayforward.com/Belize, or just head to the description or the show notes. I really hope to see you there. So when we look at something like insomnia, what does the mainstream say is the cause of insomnia?
Stress and lifestyle and life situations. They usually point to like big things and divorces and funerals and, things like that. So it's not wrong, but they just kind of categorize it as not sleeping well for a period of like 21 days or something like that. It's very observational and just pointed to something that's obvious. Whereas like I understand it now as the inability to access sleep when it's otherwise available.
Share more about that.
Yeah, kind of like with the metabolism thing. It's like I forget the number of hours at this point, right? But it's like, I got 6 hours, but I know that there was more available to me, and then something was interfering with that. I don't know exactly what it is, or I feel like I do because it was my mind or something else.
Yeah.
But it's that interference. It's like, okay, it's not about me needing something to fill the gap for that sleep that I didn't get. It's like, why didn't I fulfill what was already granted to me?
Got it. Okay. So yes, the mainstream is correct in some sense. So now in hindsight, and obviously you get a lot of people coming to you at this point with sleep issues, generally speaking, because obviously it's going to boil down to the individual, but generally speaking, what do you think is the true major cause of insomnia for someone who might be listening to this podcast who's already doing all the things, right? Like they're doing all the things that all the holistic community mentions lead to better sleep, and it's still not working for them. What do you often find is the issue?
Well, I've transitioned to that, and this is a good segue into like what the Art of Falling Asleep is doing right now. That's my company, if you will, but it's the movement. It's the journey that I've been on.
I love that name, by the way. Art of Falling Asleep.
Thanks. And I call it TALFA now, which is just the acronym for it, but it also represents the Art of Falling Asleep was like how I started trying to figure out almost a technique that you can use to fall asleep while also paying attention to that underlying problem that you're asking about. But then TALFA is where it became a model that addresses the energetics that I didn't used to address. And so I came from this vantage point of like, okay, lifestyle is important, but the underlying thing, it must be something that happened and then your associative memory is still holding on to that. And so we got to work with that and kind of figure out what's wrong. And that's kind of like the traditional approach to trauma, something like that, right? So it wasn't very far off from that. And like, okay, there's this belief, and now I attune and regulate, and this is going to help, and it helps, but it's still not the full story. And so TALFA, right? It's an energy model, and what I've done to understand energetics, it hit me earlier this year that it wasn't a coincidence that I knew it was an energy model, and then we all experience electricity, practical electricity, all the time. We have this relationship, and so it hit me that practical electricity is just a download that represents how energy works. And so over these last few months, what I'm doing to explain what the foundation of the problem is having a relationship to these two styles of models of electricity. There's a generator model, right, where there's electricity, voltage is It's always there. It's stable. It's coming from the grid. It never stops. And then there's the battery model.
Got it.
Right? It's like charge and then use the energy and charge again and use the energy. And so that battery model is kind of where everybody is. What you talked about, like biohacking and supplements, where they're trying to create charge separation, essentially, right?
Yep.
And then in the generator model, the thing that's always going, this is where the foundation is, right? Because
I see what you're getting at there. Like even like biologically speaking, because it's no longer coming from this framework that we have a depletion of energy and we need to boost up our energy stores. It's being able to tap into the abundance of energy that is always available to create the charge separation in the fourth phase water of our bodies.
Correct.
Got it.
Yeah. And so in this DC model, right? So you can think of it as like AC, DC. And in the DC model, everybody is focused, rightfully so. Positive charge from the sun, negative charge from the earth. The human, diode, positive charge through the eyes, negative charge through the feet. That's how we ground, right? Creating charge separation in the body, fourth phase of water, all of that stuff. But when you're looking at something more foundationally, okay, there's the sun. We would last like less than a second, right? If the sun were to disappear. And all right, well, energetically, what's the source of energy behind that? What's keeping the sun where it is? And that's where you go into like the generator model and the creator, God, right? The original source of voltage, electricity. And so the aha for me was like, oh my God, electricity in the house works the same way God's electricity works. And so I started tracing the steps that way. So if we went to one of these light switches and we opened it up, you see there's a black wire coming in. That's the hot wire. And then on the other side of the load is a white wire. And that's the neutral wire. And then there's going to be a copper wire. That's the ground, right? Everybody has an experience of that. Even if they've never looked behind the light switch, they flipped the switch up, right? So I was like, all right, well, what if practical electricity works the same way as divine electricity? Let's start naming the parts. And so the hot wire is God's potential, the heart, right? It's like the heart must be the load that creates the minimal resistance that allows the circuit to return back to God in this neutral wire, right? So God's potential, the heart as the resistance that is needed in any electric model. You have to have resistance or else energy is chaotic, right? And so the heart is actually what closes the loop, creates the neutral wire that creates the potential, the field, the voltage between potential, God's potential, and the heart's neutrality, and that's consciousness.
Got it.
Right? Okay. So consciousness is the foundation because what arises out of that polarity is awareness, right? This is before the body even comes along, before the brain. You have awareness, and now, with this circuit closed, you've created the condition for amperage, for flow, right? So we're talking voltage, amperage, and resistance. I know a lot of people start to freak out, when I first started to try to learn electricity. It was like, I don't get this. I'm not interested in this, right? But it's really simple if you give it some time. So if you're listening to this right now, just hang on. And when it clicks, it's really going to click, right? So the voltage field gave rise, and the resistance together gave rise to the conduit, to the flow, to the life force energy, to the ether. And that forms around the heart, right? That's the soul comes in from the elements that all of this creates around the body. And so awareness exists before and after, upstream and downstream of the body, of the brain, right? So awareness is the foundation. That is the very, very, very underlying thing. Not the trauma that I experienced at some point in this life or a previous life or whenever, when I was a kid. yes, that contributes, but it's actually having a relationship to that through awareness.
Got it. Okay. So let's talk about this in terms of like what that looks like practically, right? So you have someone coming to you with sleep issues, and they may be into some of the stuff we're talking about related to consciousness, and they're like, that sounds great, but like, how do I apply that practically? You know?
Yeah. The next step for that is to talk about what's downstream of awareness, which is the body and brain. And this is just how TALFA, everything I'm describing is this model that's come about through various pathways, but one of them is, I think we should talk about later, but like downloads, because I know some people hear download and they're like, oh, this guy, right?
Totally. But I don't, especially coming from you, because I know like the grounded, spiritually oriented human that you are. So.
Thanks.
No shame on anyone who does, but you're not sitting here wearing mala beads and you didn't like change your name or something like that.
Right. Exactly. So downstream of awareness is awareness's ability to express itself. And it can only do this through resistance. Right? The mind is awareness's ability to express itself. The mind doesn't have its own energy, right? So there's this a closed loop or this conduit with life force energy. And for the mind to express itself, it has to, through resistance, borrowing that life force energy from the body.
Got it.
Right? Yep. So here's this premise that the mind is not the brain. Mm-hmm. It's not the body, but not in a bad way. Mm-hmm. We're not bypassing anything. It's just that they share energy. And so for the mind to do something, it does come at a capacity expense against the body, right? And so now the mind is expressing itself, and sometimes it overexpresses when it confuses itself for the brain or for the body, when it tries to fall asleep, when it tries to force outcomes, right? When it confuses itself for an experience or for shame.
That's what I was going to say. Like this even relates to confusing itself in terms of adopting conditioned beliefs and latching onto those as objectively true.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And so like the rabbit hole is so deep, all the possibilities and implications of thinking that you're the brain as the mind, because what you're essentially doing is everything the brain is supposed to do, right? The brain is like making sense of things. It makes meaning. It processes emotions or data, and there's all the sleep and other autonomic activities, right? So if the mind is thinking it's the brain, it's doing all these things that the brain's supposed to do, but taking the brain's or the body's capacity, right? And then now creating a limited capacity that just doesn't have the amperage to do some of the things that it's supposed to do. And this is what a belief is, right? It's like a belief, I think, where we've not gone upstream far enough when relating to beliefs. It's just a mirror of what capacity is showing us, right? And so the mind thinking it's the brain is the next condition. So if somebody comes to me, the frame I gave you, right? It's a scale of awareness.
Yeah.
That's what that is for, is that...
Let me get that real quick.
Yeah.
Hold on. Yeah, it'd be good to show that for people who are watching. Talk to me about the scale of awareness.
Yeah, so what you're looking at, we're looking at that together as awareness upstream of the body. So this is conscious awareness that it's like a backstop. It's like you have God on one backstop, right? And then awareness on the other. That's that conscious voltage field. Mm-hmm. And so awareness has the ability to see the whole thing as a reflection of God, including how the body that came downstream and the mind that came downstream is exerting life force energy, right? And so by looking at this, what I'm looking for is like, where am I identifying as far as how energy is being distributed. And so if you go from the heart all the way to the right-hand side to mind, that's a spectrum. That's going from the heart to the brain. The mind is an energy pathway. That's how TALFA sees it. It's an energy pathway from the heart to the brain. The closer you get toward the brain, not the brain itself, but right next to it, because the mind signals, the closer you get, the more energy you're borrowing from the body, the less the body's capacity is, the more it's in avoidance.
Said otherwise, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, just I want to make sure I'm clear on this too. The more the mind self-identifies as the physical brain, the closer it gets, the more incoherent it becomes.
Correct.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. And so what we're looking at on the mind side of that scale is what I call determination. Okay. And that's just that's will, free will, right? Individuation, like just forcing outcomes. All that is determination. A lot of people, determination can be like a good thing in some cases, right? Mm-hmm. But in this particular case, that's determination, but then it's tethered on a string with avoidance in the body, right? So the more the mind identifies as the brain and tries to do what the brain is supposed to do, make meaning of things in sleep, things like that, the less capacity the body has.
Got it. And so the assumption is then, on my part, brain falls underneath body, of course, because it's literally a part of the body.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Okay.
Right. Good question. Yeah.
Okay. So talk to me more about like the practicality of like what that looks like. How do we disidentify? Because if the premise that you're coming from is, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, I'm just trying to like make sure I'm clear on this, that overarchingly, sleep issues arise when our mind has self-identified with the body, and namely in most cases the brain, and tried to take over the functions that are autonomic, like that are naturally just happening, that are parts of the body. Like we're not having to consciously think of our heart beating in order for our heart to beat, things like this. But like when we try to, I guess you could say unwittingly in most cases, like without even knowing that we're doing it, the mind associating with the body and take over some of the body's tasks, that's what puts us in a state of discord that doesn't allow us to do things like sleep effectively. Is that correct?
That is correct. And the other side of that story too is that sometimes the energy is reflecting more so as determination and sometimes more so as avoidance. Somebody like me, I wasn't conditioned into insomnia by, let's just say, how the traditional sleep model relates to insomnia and gives bad habits, right? I described like how putting pain, pathology next to the motivation for sleep, that could create like a psychological problem. That's not me necessarily. I carry a lot of avoidance, right? Emotional imprints, energetic imprints that are like, this doesn't feel right.
And when you say avoidance, is it your mind is wanting to avoid feeling those things or addressing those things? Like, speak to me about that a little bit more and like how that relates to mind body.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's something that's unresolved in the body. The body's the one that's avoiding, right? The body avoids and the mind responds.
Got it.
And so there's this symbiotic relationship between the mind and the body. So the body avoids, and then the mind is like, I see that you're not comfortable with this. I'll fix it, right? And that's where the determination comes in.
Got it.
As a response, right?
Like a coping mechanism. The mind comes up with a coping mechanism because of the body avoiding.
Right, without really being aware of that.
Yeah, right. Of course.
And so this is where meaning making, I created an acronym just to make it easy. The acronym is MAP, MAAP, meaning making, analyzing, assumption, predicting, projecting.
Got it.
This is what the mind likes to do because that's what the brain does. So when it's identifying as the brain, it maps.
Got it.
Right. So mapping helps you through awareness see just in that picture, like, oh, I'm way over here on the right-hand side. I know I'm mapping. We mapping never stops, right? It's you don't get it to stop. But it allows you to see, first of all, it's sort of like if I were to look at screen over here and see myself like sitting in bad posture, like I would immediately fix it. Right.
Yeah.
So that's like the first step. It's like, oh my God, look how determined I am. Let's ask some questions.
Yeah.
And so you can go right across the board. All right. What am I in relationship to? If it's in relationship to sleep, what meaning am I making? It could be like, if I don't get to sleep soon, I'm going to have a terrible day tomorrow, and I'm not going to perform.
So that'd be the M part.
Yeah,
of the map.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll tell you. I'll give you a beautiful demonstration of how this works, because it happened to me the night before my workshop at Confluence.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So my workshop's on a Friday. Confluence begins officially, I guess, on Thursday. Right. That's the first full day for me, anyhow. And I'm there. It's a nice reunion. I'm seeing a lot of people I know and meeting people for the first time that I've only known online. And naturally, you don't drink enough water when you're chatting, right?
No.
And so towards the end of the day, my throat's, it's feeling scratchy, and I'm like, it's kind of hurting. And then it gets to the point where I'm like, oh man, I'm feeling runny nose, headache, like throat's feeling worse. It's only like 6 o'clock. I didn't want to go home.
Yeah.
So I go home. I'm like, this is a big workshop tomorrow. I'm really excited about this. And I'm just going to go take it easy. And I get in the tub. At this point, I'm just like, I got the flu, I think. I'm full on sick. I haven't been sick in 8 years at this point. Well, still, right? And I'm in the tub, and I'm checking in with the mapping. And right away, I'm like, what meaning am I making? Of course, I would get sick the night before my workshop at Confluence, right? I found it right away. Now, that response is attached to something in the body, right? So there's a tension between them. And as soon as I realized that that's what I was thinking, I was now put in contact or given the agency to recognize how I was providing the energy or pulling that energy, borrowing it from the body.
Got it.
The mind and body share energy. And so me pulling on what the body is experiencing in terms of, in some cases, maybe I was scared or trying to sabotage myself, because that's the conversation. I was like, God, what's going on here?
Right.
Like, I'm not trying, that this is really important to me.
Right.
Right. And I started to even question like, oh, is this sabotage? And I think like sabotage is just way
like a subconscious self-sabotage type thing.
Yeah. But when I found the map and it was meaning making, I'm like, oh, this isn't self-sabotage at all. I was just playing a little bit victim here. Right. And the key point to realize is that it requires pulling energy from the body in order to make that meaning.
Got it.
Right. And you have agency over that. Right. And so as soon as I discovered that, I'm like, right. You kind of feel the drop, and capacity in the body increases to the point where this symptom doesn't have the environment that it needs to thrive. It's a different capacity.
Right.
Right. A new way forward. It's kind of like that same concept. Within 30 seconds, all my symptoms disappeared.
Got it.
Right. Like it was just a capacity issue.
Wow.
Not a maybe slightly a belief issue.
Yeah.
Right. But nonetheless, it wasn't a sabotage issue.
Right.
So many people would have taken me into a room, and like I would have, like the old me would have fallen for it. Like, oh, I'm not, there's a part of me that's like playing tricks on me, and I got to like fix that thing. That's the frequency of the problem.
That's being in the frequency of the problem, and it's still like downstream of what the real issue is here.
Right. The real issue is just.
So what was the map again? What was the M, making meaning? What were you making meaning of again in this situation?
That, of course, I would get sick if it's like. If
that was a story.
It's a story. If there
so meaning making is almost like synonymous with a story that you're telling yourself related. Yeah. Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. And keep in mind, like meaning making, it's what the brain does, but it's also what the mind is supposed to do, but like downstream, right, of the brain making the meaning that it needs to. It makes a completely different type of meaning because it's keeping us safe, right? And so we need to be able to make meaning. Like, man, it really means a lot to me that you're having me here on this podcast, right? Like that's the ability to make meaning.
Yeah.
But I'm making it downstream of this avoidance that's going on in the body.
Got
right?
it.
That's unresolved.
Got it. And so in this case, by drawing awareness to that meaning that you are making and realizing you have agency in that new awareness, you can then, what were the P's again?
Predicting and projecting.
Okay. So then you can basically, would this be repredict and reproject? Or how does that work?
No, you just, the way it works is you just stop. It sounds
and
simple.
You're no longer predicting, projecting, because you're coming from a different frame after you've drawn awareness to it.
Correct. The predicting and projecting is a capacity issue.
Got it.
Right. And so now that I have the capacity, it's just like it's like somebody took your cigarettes away. Yeah. So it's a little bit, this is what is fundamentally different, I think, than most models, where it's like not that they're wrong, but there's like the regulation model, which is, it's like, okay, I'm going to breathe, I'm going to regulate you, but you're still regulating from this understanding that it's inside the system where the problem's occurring, right? And this is something we can speak to. This is a big thing, but you'll notice I don't use the word like in the model, it's just mind body, right?
Yeah.
You don't see subconscious mind. I don't disagree with the premise that there's this like lower part of the brain, but when you look at the body and you realize everything they say about the mind and the subconscious mind is just in the brain.
Well, this is the interesting thing. I've actually heard other people say that the body is the subconscious mind. So if you look at it through that lens, it's not necessarily that it's inaccurate. It's just that like it takes the complexity to where you get so lost in the sauce out of the mind versus the body and how they work in harmony with each other. Because if the body is synonymous with or encompasses the subconscious mind, that's great. That's in the realm of the body. That's over there. And it's not a function of the mind where you're getting lost in the muck of like how this mind piece of it works. Do you see what I'm saying there?
I do, but it's simpler than that. Like the way I see it, weird analogy here, but like it's like polyamory, right? It's not for me, right? I'm like, man, I tried having a wife once. It was not easy, you know? Imagine having like two, right?
No way.
Yeah. So having a mind, it's not the easiest thing, not the easiest relationship, right?
Right.
And then like now that I have two minds.
Right.
Right.
Or three.
Yeah.
People say three. Yeah.
Yeah. And
subconscious, unconscious, and conscious. Like,
right.
Yeah.
And so all I'm saying is that, what they call the subconscious is in the body, but one, it's primal. It's not anything.
Yeah.
Right. It's it's the filter.
Yeah.
Right. But the other thing is that by calling it the subconscious mind because it's in the lower part of the brain, well, now there's the top part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, that they're calling the conscious mind, right? Consciousness. Oh, I want to be more conscious. Let me go up into the prefrontal cortex to filter life.
Yeah, and that's not the right move.
It's reverse. I call it reverse consciousness.
Yeah.
You're in your head thinking you're in your heart.
Yeah.
Right? And so it squeezes. You're going up. And I actually suffered through this for years where I thought I was like, taking the spiritual path and mindfulness. Like that's notice like that whole, it started to really bother me lately, right? Mm-hmm. Mindfulness and what's the other one? It'll come to me, but there's this like weird essence to it where I'm like, it's got this like PBS, like NPR feel to it. I'm like, you're somehow, I'm coming up into the brain, right? And so when I'll watch people meditate and I'll sit across from somebody in a Zoom and we do this thing where I'm like, let's just do nothing. We're going to do nothing for a minute. We're going to see just notice how capacity changes. And I see them I see their face twitch. They're moving all their energy to kind of like try to stop the mind, right? So they're squeezing capacity, and that's kind of called mindfulness, right? Mind is in the brain. I'm going to be mindful. And so they're going up into the prefrontal cortex thinking that they're becoming more conscious.
Most of our modern lives are spent completely disconnected from the natural world. Artificial light environments, concrete, rubber soles on our feet, non-native EMFs everywhere. We have totally immersed ourselves in a completely unnatural world. Getting outside and putting your feet on the earth is actually vitally important for our health. And that's why I've worn Earth Runners for years, especially when I'm out in nature, whether I'm on a trail, hiking, fly fishing, camping, or just spending time outside at an event like Confluence with the earth beneath my feet. Earth Runners are minimalist sandals that are especially great when you're out in a natural environment. They have a wide toe box and a flexible sole that lets your feet spread, grip, and move naturally on uneven terrain, whether it's trails, grass, sand, or dirt. Instead of restricting your feet the way most modern footwear does, they allow your feet to engage naturally with the ground and move the way they were designed to do in a natural setting. What also makes Earth Runners unique is their conductive grounding design, which allows your body to reconnect with the Earth's natural negative charge while you walk. And as I've discussed on a variety of podcast episodes, negative charge is essential for your body's energy production. If you value getting outside, reconnecting with nature, and moving in a way that your body was designed to move while on natural surfaces, check them out. Head to earthrunners.com or just head to the show notes and use code FORWARD10 at checkout for 10% off. Again, that's FWRD10 for 10% off your order. If you're ready to rewild your health and walk in deeper alignment with nature, then check out Earth Runners and feel the difference from the ground up.
Yeah, they're trying to place their essence there as if that's where they are. That's where consciousness sits. Yeah. I totally get what you mean. Yeah. I saw this video, and maybe this relates to what you're getting at, and I'm going to paraphrase it, but are you familiar with Rupert Spira?
No.
Okay, so he's a non-duality teacher. And in this video, he's addressing the idea that non-duality is spiritual bypassing. And here's what he says, and I'm like, I actually really appreciated this take. He was like, yes, non-duality is spiritual bypassing. And because, of course, people mean that in a derogatory way when they say it, but he addresses it in a different way. And I really appreciate it. He said something to the effect of, yes, non-duality is spiritual bypassing because we're not involved with what's happening in the physical, and we get to the root of who we truly are so that we can bypass what's going on in the physical. We don't have to do 20 years, 30 years of inner work. When we realize who we truly are, we can then, after bypassing, revisit those things with a true understanding of who we truly are. And I was like, I actually really appreciated that, because it's like, he's saying that, yes, it is spiritual bypassing to understand your true essence and say, we don't have to work on all the trauma and things like that. And there's some nuance there, right? Like, but the core of what he was getting at is when you really truly feel into who you truly are, you can then revisit all of those traumatic things if necessary, or just go about life from a new frame of being. Do you see what I'm saying there?
Yeah.
Which I really appreciated. But what it sounds like to me is that kind of relates to this, in that, like, we're trying to get you to understand how the mind body works along that sort of spectrum with the heart in the middle. And we're looking at all of those external things that happen as just happenings of the body that the mind, because it's self-identifying as the body, is perceiving incorrectly. And when we truly understand that relationship, we can see the whole field of things differently. Would you say that that's an accurate frame for this?
I'd say that is accurate so far, but there's more to the story.
Yeah.
Because energy, the way energy works is it's efficient.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Nothing gets wasted. So in that model, it's like, yeah, it's great, but it's like, well, what's going on with all this energy, right? And it comes back in the body, and it comes back to the AC/DC model, and I'll touch on that. That's why this is so important to me, because I've really sat in the middle of these two sides. There's like the two-mind model that experiences can experience reverse consciousness, and then sometimes the non-dual. And it's not a fight I want to pick. Once you get in bad with the NDIC, the non-dual industrial complex, it's like the other day.
Industrial complex.
The other day,
shit, that's funny.
This YouTube video came up on my algorithm, and it was like, I don't know if you know who Sam Harris is. I didn't know who he was.
Who Sam Harris is.
But it was like, it's again back to this like kind of mindfulness, like vibe essence. But I was looking at the comments and just like all these like non-dualists arguing from these different camps, arguing with each other. And it's just, you can see the progression and you know where it's going. And it's just like, everybody's like, well, if, it's all self-referential and yada, yada. But of course, somebody like yourself may not see that,
Oh my God,
they're just like, they're experiencing reverse consciousness, right? They're going into into the ego.
Which is ironic because they like a lot of the time say that they're trying to not go into the ego.
That's what I'm saying.
Right. Yeah,
right.
Totally. I totally get that.
And so where I'm sitting, right, I could potentially like offend everybody in every model. I'm like, no, that's not what I do as a human in general. I'm always like, wait a second. I'm like, let's not throw out the babies with the bathwater here. Right. I'm like, I really resonate with non-dual perspectives as the one that you just mentioned. And of course, I come from this other camp where I've been helped so much. Man, dude, 4 years ago, I was in the dumps. I was in a really bad place. And our mutual friend, Kyle Troutman, like old friend of mine, and I'm not saying he's in one of those camps. He kind of gets, he definitely gets it, right? He integrates it. But I didn't relate to it the way I'm relating to it now, but I went in under the hood, right? I related to my like a conscious subconscious relationship, right? Through this 2-mind model to really increase my capacity, improve my relationship to shame. But what I'm doing now is like, oh, there's a lot of, I really like what I'm hearing on both sides. And this is why emotional grounding, that's the scale of awareness is an emotional grounding tool, but that's why this is a big part of TALFA as an energy model, grounding electricity. It's putting a copper rod in the ground and saying, okay, this is an AC model, this is a DC model. The human experience, right, as an eternal being in a temporary body is an AC, DC experience, right? And they depend on each other.
Yeah.
Right? When you're driving a car, there's an alternator and a battery. They're working together.
Totally.
Right?
And that's why I say it's like paradoxically both non-dual and dual. Like the true frame for this reality, I believe, is one that is fundamentally non-dual. I do believe that. And we are in a very clear, very real, very lucid illusion of separation that is purposeful. Like that we're supposed to experience duality. Like this is very, like clearly I am sitting apart from you, who is a distinct, individuated version of God, of the one mind, whatever you want to call it. But the true frame for reality is non-dual. It's both. It's literally both combined into one thing, paradoxically. Is that kind of how you see it as well?
It is. And when I call it the model, right, I don't mean to sound like a douche.
No,
It's like it's helped get me out of my own head and trying to project my own beliefs or fantasy of like what the soul is, right, onto this thing that I feel was a download. And so going back to how I explained how the model describes consciousness and that field and awareness coming before the body, you see that. So when you go back to the consciousness field and how it began with the heart, it began with the individual. The individual it's the dual thing that gave rise to the conscious field, right? So it's a struggle when you're like, I'm this individual that's separate, but we're all one. Like, it's a mind F, right? Like I can't, this makes no sense to me. But when you realize that it was actually the individual that gave rise to oneness from an electrical standpoint, it's not a spiritual debate. I'm like, look, I'm just saying, it's like voltage needs resistance in order for amperage. That's it, right? And so it's a little bit easier to relate. And in an energetically efficient system, it's regenerative. It's always informing itself. Mm-hmm. And so the AC/DC works. They depend on each other to constantly inform each other so that we actually evolve, right? And so that's how I think the dual, non-dual polarity actually gets settled. That copper rod is understanding it's the individual that creates the one.
Got it. Okay. So I really want this to land for me and also for the audience when it comes to sleep. So would it be appropriate maybe to give like an example, like a fictitious example that I'm sure you've experienced? So you have someone who comes to you with all the issues, like they're struggling with insomnia. They really are struggling with sleep on most nights. And they find that some of the times, some of the holistic health oriented stuff, which is really just getting back to nature, sometimes help, but it doesn't always stick. So what might you do with that individual in order to guide them to be able to get better sleep? Like what does that actually look like in practicality?
Yeah, to understand like how determination is demonstrated for them.
Okay.
So with most people, they're going into there's the DC model, there's charge separation. And so they're actually trying to create charge separation with their mind.
Yeah.
Right? They're actually trying to move two terminals in their body to create amperage through magnesium, right? Through meditation.
Okay.
Not all meditation, I'm not saying is
totally.
from the DC model.
This is helpful to give examples of what you mean by that. Like, okay, so they're taking magnesium supplements. They're trying to meditate beforehand. So they're trying to be deterministic and like force their mind and body unwittingly to come into coherence to sleep.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. But then it's about points of contact.
Okay.
We talked about that earlier, where think of a point of contact, like we're in this room, right? And let's just say it were stuffy. The AC didn't work.
Okay.
All right. So you might open up the front door. Mm-hmm. That's one point of contact, right? We've gone from like isolation to now, all right, there's some flow in here, but it's still not the best we can do. So now we open up a window, right? And it's like, oh, okay, now we got a stream and maybe a window somewhere else. We're adding these points of contact. And now we're getting outside of the frequency of the problem because there's an intelligence that is beyond our capacity to really understand how to manipulate that's starting to work, right? The breeze is working with itself. There's a flow. We've created amperage. And so the first point of contact is that the body sleeps, not the mind. That's the first thing. Because
first thing for them to understand.
Right?
Okay.
Because we've all been groomed into this understanding of sleep that we are first the brain, and this is what the brain needs, right? Oh, well, then let me do all the things. Let me energetically.
So the assumption is that the mind is, even though they don't say this overtly, the assumption there is because the mind is part of the brain, that means the mind shuts off. And like you hear people say that in their vernacular, they will literally say like, I can't shut off my mind in order to fall asleep, which is so interesting. And it's like, no. Your mind does not shut off, and that's okay. It's not supposed to shut off during sleep. The body's what sleeps.
The body's what sleeps, and it's the fullest expression possible, right? So like at the workshop, I took a little lamp and I took a dimmer, right? And I was explaining electricity to people. Like, all right, this lamp plugs in to the wall. This is to the grid. That's voltage. The body of the lamp is the body. It's a conduit. Right? That's where the amperage flows. And then I had this dimmer and the dimmer was completely, it was off, meaning full resistance, right? It's completely resisting the flow. So there's no light, there's no wattage coming out of the light bulb.
Was that analogous to sleeping?
Analogous to sleeping, yeah.
So like the body is off, so the mind is not necessarily interacting fully with the body in that moment?
More so that resistance was all the way. So it's like when the mind's completely resisting, it's up in the head. Right. And so there was no expression of the life force that's available through the amp that the voltage is like pushing.
Got it.
Right.
Okay.
And so the main thing that I was demonstrating, the question I asked, like, who here thought and I turned the dimmer upside down. Who here thought that you were coming to this workshop to learn how to dim your light so that you can fall asleep? And everybody raised their hand, right? And I turned the dimmer around. Here's what's really happening. Like when you're going to sleep, and it's like I'm pushing the dimmer down, right? This analogous to I'm coming down. And as it's going down, it's like a rock show, right? Pyrotechnics. It's like the lamp is completely expressing itself. Its highest form of purpose.
Got it.
Right? Because it's the least resistant.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the key thing, is that sleep is a very active process. Maybe we'll end on this, but I call it the purpose of life itself, right? It's when God's potential is expressed the greatest. And I'm just looking at this through metaphor to electricity, right? When the mind is the most neutral, when it becomes awareness again, upstream of the body-brain experience, now the most life force energy is moving through the body. Okay. So it's a fundamental switch, and it messes with people, and they don't like it, and then they like it. Okay. And then it makes sense.
I want to get to that. I definitely want to talk more about that. So in this example, right? So someone comes to you, they're trying to be deterministic and that's the right word, right?
Determined.
Yeah, determined. Yeah. And so they're doing a certain meditation, they're magnesium supplementing. And then what do you say to them in those moments? Like, it's like, okay, how do we reframe how they're approaching their sleep in that?
Yeah. Well, the next point of contact is God. Right. The creator. And that the reason, the thing that creates the determination is this relationship. Well, like, if I don't sleep, then something bad is going to happen.
Yep.
Right. Like I'm having to, yeah. And so they're like manufacturing this outcome that they're trying to prevent or manufacturing the opposite of that. And so they're back into this. The reason why we sleep is to avoid pathology. And so looking at it like from a bird's eye view, the reason why we sleep perhaps is for another reason, right? Like why, if sleep is something that most people spend a third of their lives doing, right? Like, it takes me 30 minutes with a charger. I have to charge my phone and use it for the rest of the day, right? If it takes a third of the life to just supply energy for the next day, then that's the most energetically inefficient. Right. Yeah. It doesn't math up, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So it's like, well, what else is happening during sleep? And this is where sleep becomes like that central organizing event that, like, we're not supposed to do this on our own, right? Like, what is really happening when we sleep?
Talk to me more about that, please.
Yeah. Well,
it being this central organizing event.
Yeah. So I'll go to when I first received the download of the scale, and then another diagram, which is the intersection of life. You probably saw it. It's an X with a heart in the middle, and it has like God, soul, body, mind.
On here too, right?
It's not on that one. Yeah, it's not on that one.
Okay.
It's just basically showing how all these aspects of self and energy converge at the heart. And when I looked at that, that was a download. Like, I woke up, like, before brushing my teeth, I ran straight to the computer and I drew that, right? Like, I created that in Canva, and I'm like, all right. I'm like, what am I looking at here? Right. And that's when I saw like mind and body. Well, where does subconscious mind go? Like, it doesn't really fit. And that was like that's what showed me, so body's on this continuum with a soul, right? The mind is on this continuum with God. I'm like, all right. And so let me make some meaning of this. But when I started applying this, and this is where the energy sharing concept came from, and I started applying that to my own sleep and followed that through my ritual and woke up, I'm like, wait a second, what just happened? This is not normal. This is an experience of sleep that I've never felt before, right? And it was just like, this is right at the time when I was going through a really tough time, and I woke up and it just felt like everything like was reconciled.
Okay,
you know?
Yeah.
So this is what led me down this picture. I'm like, wait a second, what if sleep isn't just for physical restoration? You know, and this is where like more downloads started coming up. And I'm like, wait a second, I'm in relationship with something right here.
Yeah.
And I started to feel guided, right? And this is when the model started to really like speed up, in a sense, take shape, and more information was coming in. And it was happening always right when I woke up or when I was in the tub, you know, before bed, and opening myself to these revelations. Right. So it's just like, I've been constantly exploring, well, then why do we sleep? And one morning I woke up and I was like, the purpose of life is to sleep. Right. And
interesting.
And I was so bothered by it because I knew I had to say that. Right. I knew I had to be the spokesperson for that slogan. And I found it like confronting. I'm like, people are going to find this so confronting. Now there's no bigger advocate for insomniacs and how people can mess with their psychology, right? I'm really big on that. Like how I speak about sleep. I do not want to confuse anybody and create more problems that existed before. So I was really sensitive to this idea that like, wow, the purpose of life is to sleep. I really need to explore this. And so
it's such a flip on what we typically think, because that's what just came up for me. It's like we think the purpose of sleep is that we can life better, but you're suggesting that the purpose of life is so that we can sleep better.
Yeah. Yeah, sit with that for a bit.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, no, it's interesting, especially when you consider like what comes up for me as well is an episode I did with Diane Hennessy-Powell from the telepathy tapes, obviously, and she's been studying ESP and other, phenomena related to that for a long time, specifically in nonverbal autistic kids. And she talked about how one of the moms that she works with, her nonverbal autistic son will literally enter into her dreams in order to communicate effectively with her related to what he needs the next day or something that he needs to tell her, which suggests to me that when we're dreaming, it's not that our mind is inside of our brain rummaging through things. When we're dreaming, it's that our mind or some essence about who we are is quite literally possibly in another realm or another aspect of reality or another, I don't know, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, when you look at that diagram, and again, just reminding a listener who can't see it right now, you have soul, God, mind, and body all converging at the heart, right? Where awareness is seated.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So sleep has all these various functions, and none of them are identical. It's all over the board, right? There's memory consolidation, there's processing, emotion. Well, what's the soul doing? Right? What's God doing? Again, and when you look at these different components of energy, I've been describing voltage, amperage, resistance, then you see that like, okay, God is God, right? I know your relationship to God. I have a very good relationship to God, but you realize he's voltage, right?
Pure voltage, yeah.
Pure voltage. Communicates, right? He's upstream of the amperage, but delivers that intelligence that we experience through the amperage, through the life force, through the ether.
Yeah.
Right? So what is the role of all these other components? What's the role of soul? Right? What's the role of the avoidance? What's the role of the unresolved imprints that are also in many ways preventing me from sleeping? Right? So now you have all these different possibilities of what's going on when we sleep, from cleaning things up and consolidating memories and decoupling emotions from negative experiences so that the brain knows how to keep the human safe, right? And moving forward. And then, well, what's the soul doing? Why is the soul here? What is the soul, right? And so what I've discovered, or what I'm naming the soul as, is just simply, there's more to it, of course, but it's above my pay grade for now to call the soul anything other than a pattern that's there, that is in relationship to the body's experience, right? It's the soul's entering through the elements, and it's in relationship to these unresolved emotions. So the soul is, I see it as like a liaison of God in the physical world to help us relate to life through pattern.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense.
To stay out of our heads. Yeah. And so there's all these different things going on during sleep. And, the main one, and this is the AC, the alternating current side of it, is the guidance and the attunement between the soul's pattern and the pattern of unresolved emotions, right? So it's like creating a QR code, right, inside the body. And so to try to really understand sleep through dreams, it's like a car going through a car wash. It's like there's all these things going on, and you're just taking screenshots of the car wash, and I'm like, hey, what do you think of this? And you're like, oh, it looks like a car getting washed, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, okay, I show you a picture of the finished car, and you're like, oh, I see, right? And so it's like there's this process in sleep, and it's really, really messy. But again, what is it actually doing for us? And so it came to be, the purpose of life is to sleep. Okay, well then, maybe if the purpose of sleep is to go live life and like it's putting, I don't know, the cart before the horse or something like that. Now I got to like earn my ability to go like prove myself in life. It's this linear pattern, living paycheck to paycheck. And well, what if everything that I need for my personal evolution, for my contribution to do God's work through my own individual expression, what if all of that was embedded during the sleep process, right? And that's something to sleep on. And then actually following that pattern, now we're into that vortex, right? The way everything moves. Why is the heart a vortex, right? What's going on here? And so it's really about this transition of relating to sleep as the place that shows us through pattern that we're not doing this by ourselves. And it's not just about me, right? Yeah. I went to sleep last night. I was getting into coherence with you, knowing I was going to be here, knowing that we were going to be speaking, making electricity together, right? I'm sleeping on behalf of you. I'm sleeping on behalf of everybody that's listening because energy is efficient, right? And the soul is connected. It's a universal soul. It's not an individual soul, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm sleeping on behalf of this greater story that God's using his energy to tell.
Got it. Wow. It kind of makes sense of like how there are countless examples in my life, especially recently, right? Like taking multiple homeopathic balanozos, which are supposed to like uproot the impressions upon you, like the emotional impressions, as you call them, right? That during that period of time, I was having repetitive dreams about basketball specifically, because basketball in my life was something where I felt like I mean, I had a tremendous fear of failure. I had made it my identity. I had failed in doing so. So then I felt like a failure myself, and so many different things related to that. And I just had repetitive basketball dreams every single night. So it was like I was working out what my soul needed to work out related to that pattern inside of my dreams. So you feel like that's a big piece of going to sleep as well, is the processing, not just the consolidation of memory, but like the processing of the undigested things in life.
Yes, yeah. Absolutely. And that is upstream of everything else, right? It's not a hierarchy in a sense of like it being more important, but it's back to the AC/DC, right? That happens the more that your resistance is lowered, the more that happens. So that's a really integral part of the sleep process. And so that's why it's important, I see it as a point of contact to have a relationship with this, we'll call it a spiritual aspect of sleep, and not just relate to it from a battery perspective, but they integrate, right? Because the soul, it's elemental and it's working with this generator model of electricity. Does that make sense at this point when I say generator model?
Yeah. Like the soul has an endless stream of energy coming to it, but the body is working on the model of needing to recharge, and then it goes back down and need more recharge and go back down, and then those two are integrated together.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, yeah, I totally get it.
But then it's, where does it start, right? God is the original generator of energy, right? Yeah. So the soul is working, is the amperage working with God, whereas like in the mitochondria, let's say that's an amperage working in the DC battery model. Yep. Right? Well, energetic imprints fit into that battery model.
Okay. Right? Explain that a little bit more.
Yeah. So you experience something and it's too overwhelming for you to digest, to resolve. So it gets stored.
Okay.
Tissue, fascia, right? Organs. And so that's what everybody calls trauma, right? And well, life is energetically efficient. Like what's going on with this trauma? And so during sleep, I mean, this is a bit of a tangent, but I'll just say this really quickly. This is the point of the purpose of life also the point of the purpose of life being to sleep, is that the whole thing with trauma right now, it's like, I see it as not a coincidence that trauma is such a big thing. And then people stop revering sleep, right? They've lost this point of contact, right? With God and the soul to process.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it comes back to the energy imprints. It's being a battery, right? It's charged, stored energy. We've both been carrying around energy from imprints that are unresolved, and they're not supposed to go away. They're just a source of fuel, right? It's this like a battery in a car and an alternator, right? It's constantly going back and forth, where that is now the fuel that the soul is figuring out how to be exerted or used, right? And so this gets into like sleeping, the purpose of life being to sleep, because while you're asleep, there's a pattern that's being created where everything you ever thought was like a mistake or was projected onto you, was something that you had to get rid of, is being appropriated towards something that's purposeful, something that's very efficient, like what you've created here, right? Based on your story. You look at that, that's all that is a pattern that was reorganized when you slept.
Hey y'all, I'm here with Melissa Kupsch from Remedy Academy of Homeopathy. We are so stoked here at the Way Forward to be partnering with Melissa and Remedy in order to spread the message of homeopathy across the world, and also to partner on the eventual development of healing centers across the United States.
People are pretty quickly coming to realize that frequency is the future of medicine. We are witnessing the great resurgence of homeopathy right now. We're really moving away from that suppressive medical model, whether it's for eczema, asthma, hormones, fertility, anxiety, depression, trauma, whatever it is, it all starts as energy in the person's field first. If we change our field, we can completely change our life. Our 2-year academy is open worldwide to anyone who wants to become a homeopath. We've got 5 lecturers and we currently have over 500 students enrolled, which is record numbers in our field. A career in homeopathy is amazing for anyone who wants flexibility in their work and who wants to be valuable in creating this new world. We have stay-at-home parents enrolled. We have ex-medical professionals, grandparents signed up who want to learn how to heal their grandchildren and pass on that invaluable knowledge. We even have husband and wife teams. So my husband enrolled in the course with no prior knowledge of health as a background, and he is loving it.
Kylie is also enrolled as well. So my partner is, and she's so stoked to become a homeopath and to be helping to spread this message across the world.
The thing that we hear from so many of our students is, I found my thing. Homeopathy is the key. We harness frequencies from nature and we alter the field of all creations. So if anybody wants to join us or they want to know more about it, they can visit our website.
Yeah, and all that information will be in the show notes. So if you want to learn more about Remedy Academy, also Remedy Collective, also some of the homeopathic products that they have, please just head to the show notes. All of that will be listed there.
Interesting. So the primary impetus to create in life is sleep, you would argue?
It flips.
Is it because that's like because so many people don't even remember having slept, right? Like a lot of, like, from my understanding, we do dream every night. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know how they validated that, but overwhelmingly, most people don't even remember their dreams the night before. But are you suggesting that there is so much downloads and things that are happening to us while we are dreaming, so much revelation from God, so much communication happening, so much processing, that's the primary impetus for the creation of things in reality?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's pretty interesting because I don't remember the name. I don't have the name off the top of my head right now, but there are countless, let's just say, individuals throughout history that had divine inspiration occur to them in dreams to create something magnificent in reality. I mean, one example, and I don't know if this is true, and I brought this up on another episode, but Michael Jackson supposedly, did you hear me? Did I talk about this with Steve?
I listened to this yesterday, yeah.
Was it the one with Steve that I talked about this
Prince?
With Prince, where like he woke up in the middle of the night at 3 a.m. because he got a download in his dream of a melody, and he called all of his team like, we need to go to the studio right now, because if I don't get this out right now, I know Prince is going to receive this exact same information. He's going to put the song out before I do.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting.
Yeah. And
what did you take from that? Like, if that's true.
I was a songwriter for many years. I've written a lot of songs, and a lot of them, maybe a quarter of them, I woke up like singing, right?
Yeah.
And I immediately created. So I can really, again, it's a download.
That's true in your experience, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. But what you said about like we're always dreaming, I do agree that we're always dreaming, but I'm calling a dream just a pattern that's created from an organization process.
Okay.
Right. And remember, if in fact awareness precedes the senses, vision, and everything else, well, everybody's relating to dreams from what they can remember using the elemental body, when awareness has access to that entire field.
Okay.
Right? So I sleep. I had a beautiful like this morning. It was just like I cried because I was like the synchronicity I experienced, and I was just like, that's just awareness, right? Synchronicity it's
just awareness.
It's totally just awareness,
right? Yeah, totally agree.
It's all a bunch of decisions that I knew to make without realizing that I knew to make them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And so awareness, or the synchronicity, right? It was just a dream. It was something that was formed in me that I'm aware that that was formed because I'm relating to my body through a pattern. And then that pattern is like creating these so-called synchronicities, right? So a dream is more than what you can remember, right? It's just the whole process. And so dreams can be important if because there's different capacities that we experience dreams from. If you wake up in the middle of a nightmare, it's very likely that your prefrontal cortex didn't have the capacity to process the emotional charge, right? That needed to be processed. But if you went to sleep in great capacity, I had a dream once. I woke up and it was reliving, I believe, the scene when they shot through the house. I woke up and there was I woke up to cops in the hallway, right? But in my dream, I'm on the porch with my dog and there's cops. But this dream, it just has this cool like sepia tone to it, right? And I'm like, oh, I integrated that, right? The same exact dream could have been interpreted differently, or it should be interpreted differently if you slept from a different capacity.
Got it.
Right? So there's a lot of different things going on where it could be, you can fall into the trap of remembering a dream, remembering all the details, going to somebody to help you make sense of it. And now you're just mapping, from the wrong side of the stream. Yeah. So it's simple, but it's complex too. I also think dreams it's a very personal thing. I don't think anybody has the right to say what a dream is. I think,
totally.
Yeah. We all have our own personal relationship to them, and there's more to it than I know.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So you have, for this hypothetical individual, that like you're looking at all the ways that they're sort of forcing themselves to try to be able to sleep with the preconceived idea that sleep is to avoid pathology. So then they're needing to adopt this other understanding that like that's not the primary reason that we sleep, nor is the primary reason that we sleep to really help our body have more energy in life. It's this new understanding that like sleep is so much more than all those things, including the connection to the creator. So what does that look like in order to get them to really embody that and bring that into their body? And I guess the other piece of that, is there more to it than just those things that I mentioned? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
There's that's the principle and conceptual approach that's just important to absorb, so that everything downstream of that.
I mean, the conceptual as it pertains to the individual, like you could argue that, okay, the no virus position is a conceptual position, but it's like, if you really wrestle with that conceptual position, your life in terms of your actions and your words, like what happens in the physical realm, is predicated by your beliefs, thoughts, and feelings. So when you adopt a different belief system, you as an individual will then make choices and actions in reality that are oriented towards that now dissolved or the new system of thought that you have adopted.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it shows up just naturally through awareness, right? In real time.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I've also there's a sleep ritual, and this is the very first download. It was taking a bath, and these 5 concepts showed up on the wall: decide, release, balance, become, be present. And I'm like, I read them off. I'm like, oh, what's this? Right? I knew what it was. And so that happened about 7 years ago. And I'm like, okay, these are steps to falling asleep. And so it began with me like just following the common sense thing it was telling me to do, right? It's like, I'm going to decide to sleep. Okay, I'm turning off my phone, and then I'm going to release. I'm going to move my body, and then I'm just going to like do some pranayamas, balance, and I'm going to like reverse consciousness, become sleep. That's what I was doing at the time, right? Like I'm just going to, picture myself becoming sleep, manifestation style, right? And then presence, focus on the senses. That's where it started. But then I saw like, oh, there are layers to this, and these are points of contact. So I changed the name to the 5 touchstones instead of the 5 steps, just putting tuxedo on it, right? Yep. The same process, though you're doing them sequentially. And so the first touchstone, decide, is really just about taking this person who is, because the day's been, it's just like, life has become one long day, right? Mm-hmm. People, it's like you go to sleep. It's like watching a NASCAR race. It's like a quick pit stop and then like back to the grind, right?
Yeah.
So in the sleep ritual, the first thing to do is to sit in a chair the way we're doing now. Kind of like I came in here and I'm like, oh man, are we going to start recording? Like, are we behind? I was like, I'm still sweating. I need to cool off. And so it's just a cooling off period, sitting, doing nothing, being conscious about their reflex to try to go up into their brain to stop the momentum that's really just wanting, like a dog or kid needing to get the piss and vinegar out, right? It's just like, just sit, allow your body to intelligently catch up to itself because you've been dragging it through the day. So that's a huge thing right there, because people discover like, oh my God, that's really hard to do.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, it's really hard to do.
To just sit.
Yeah. And so on the heels of that is closing the day, which is just saying like, okay, it's hard to close the day. It's hard to like put down the phone, right? It's hard to like stop deliberating about what you could have done different, what you need to do better.
What you need to do tomorrow even.
Yeah. And closing a day is a really big thing, but you need the capacity to be able to make the decision to do that. And so that's why the first part of sitting in the chair is allowing that momentum to come to resolve itself. And then it's like, okay, now I actually feel like I have the agency to be able to say, this day is over. I say goodbye if there's any open loops, that a text I need to send or something like that, this is where you realize it's to be done. And then it's official.
Like you actually go do it?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, it's like you can give yourself a 5-minute period for that momentum to shift, but you have permission to think, you have permission to map, right? You're just not adding momentum. You're not adding energy to that momentum.
Yeah, you're closing a loop rather than like, I got to get this done, so I'm going to go write a whole article right now.
Exactly. Right?
Yeah.
Because if not, it's just feeling like, okay, I'm going to airplane mode, and you're just like, I feel like there's something like I got to turn off the stove or something like that,
totally
right?
Get what you mean. Yep.
Yeah. But the cool thing about closing the day, you actually close the loop for tomorrow too. Mm-hmm. Right. That's all that worrying about tomorrow is an open loop from today.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, same thing. So once you do that, so these are all points of contact, right? Capacity increasers, the body reacquiring energy from the mind that the mind's been borrowing all day to go make a mess in the world in order to create something unique, right? But give it back. The creation only happens by giving it back, right? The life force energy needs the surrender in order to create. And so it's like, it's permission, right? This returning to awareness, returning to this place where you're giving capacity back to the body, or allowing the body to take the capacity back from you. It's permission to go like screw things up a bit, right? So now that I used to call it processing. I don't like that anymore because it can make the person try to do what the brain's designed to do by process.
Yeah.
So it's just closing the day. And now you've gained the capacity to be able to look at that scale that I showed you and just notice, where am I? Where is my energy active? Where is it located? Sort of like going to one of those maps at a mall.
Yep.
And you're trying to find something and it says you are here.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. That's what that is.
So this map, or what is this called again? It's called the
scale of awareness.
Scale of awareness. It literally acts as an anchor point, like visually. Like you encourage people to look at it and say, like, where am I as it pertains to this?
Yes, absolutely. And you can, again, it's awareness. It's like it's this.
Yeah.
When you close your eyes and you can see yourself sitting there.
Yeah.
That's awareness. Yeah. Right. And so you're doing that and observing your energy. And then once you can locate it, well, now you've got something to work with. Right. And so
what might that look like? Like, give me an example of someone who like has got some energy somewhere that they need to locate using this map.
Mm-hmm. Well, if they see themselves on the determination side, this is where you can go into the map that I talked about.
Yep.
Oh, what meaning am I making? What am I assuming? What am I projecting? Right.
Yep.
Oh, I'm projecting that I'm going to have a bad day tomorrow. You realize that it actually requires energy to be able to do that. And you have the agency to stop pulling all that energy. That creates capacity, right? So that's one way. And then on the avoidance side, it's just sitting with it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I was last night, I'm on the couch in my hotel room and I I'm using your scale there.
Yeah.
And I see myself on the avoidance side and I know why I'm on the avoidance side, right? Like my body's feeling a little fear coming on this podcast. What's going to happen? What if it doesn't go well? What if it goes so poorly that they decide not to air it? Right?
Not going to happen.
So, but no. But like this is
I get that. Yeah.
This is that ping pong match that's going in, right? Yeah. And so I realize I'm sitting with my avoidance. I'm like, oh, well, I'm now aware of how I'm responding to this avoidance through my mapping. So I have the agency to pull back on that. And now I'm just sitting here and I'm looking at my body and looking, just back and forth. That's it.
Because were you feeling it in your body, like in a specific location? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's like coming here on your podcast is requiring a new capacity for me. Mm-hmm. Like, as it turns out, I'm here. I keep forgetting that we're actually recording.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I'm present. I'm present. Right.
Yeah.
We're just having a conversation. Yeah. That's not the way I was experiencing it in the hotel room.
Right.
But I had...
Because you were projecting.
Because I was projecting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was doing all of them.
Yeah.
I was trying to predict. I was like rehearsing like what I wanted to talk about instead of like, wait a second. I'm like, I'm here to have a conversation with like one of the best conversationalists. Like, but it's true. But I'm like, wait a second. Like we can participate in this conversation that like expands this, like, it creates new insights, right? Mm-hmm. These are all the things that I'm going through. And now this avoidance, it's like on this threshold, that's on this new cliff, like a new height of a diving board, right? It's not receiving that pulling, that kind of, that ping pong, that tension. And it's like, okay. I'm like, yeah, you're good, buddy. And here's some breaths. Yeah.
Yeah. Bringing awareness to it diffuses it.
Absolutely. Well, it begins and then sitting with it while not responding energetically to what's going on, right? And so when that happens, it's like, okay, I'm feeling some avoidance. It's like an itch, right? When you know what it's exactly like is fasting, right? You're going through a fast and you're like, okay, I've decided to do this, and the end of day 1 or day 2, you're like, oh, man, I'm really hungry. Yeah. Right.
Especially day 1, 2, and 3 for me.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, I've already decided not to do this. Like, eating is not an option, but eating would provide that same it would resolve like a need, right? It's not in your best interest at this point because there's a reason why you're fasting, right? You want to be in integrity with yourself. And so if I'm sitting there and my body's in avoidance because of all these things, and I'm like, don't worry, I'm going to rehearse in the morning. I'm going to read all these things I printed out that I want to be sure to talk about to make sure that it goes well, right? I've been doing a lot of predicting and projecting and analyze. I've been doing the whole thing this last couple of weeks, right? And so I'm really sitting with it at its peak last night. And now I'm like, oh, okay. I'm not going to eat to satisfy this itch I'm feeling, right? I'm not going to try to scratch that itch with mapping.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm actually just going to sit here. If you take a big inhale and exhale, that's what it feels like when you're not mapping.
Got it.
Right. You can build this relationship to what it feels like to draw energy up into your head, thinking that you're the brain, impersonating the brain. Right. And so I'm sitting there and I'm looking at the scale and at this point, it's like when you're walking, let's say looking for a restaurant, you're on the sidewalk and you're like, I can't tell, I'm not oriented correctly here. Right. And you're just looking at the blue dot and I'm just like, I'm not walking though, I'm just sitting there, but it's the same effect as if I'm getting closer to something.
Got it.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh wow. And you just feel your awareness is just watching the body know how to intelligently organize and take that energy back from the mind, and you feel yourself connect to the heart. You feel the whole thing. The whole thing just changes in your body. And another way to do that, which I like for people who are just starting, is to put that scale on the floor, sort of like in your mind's eye. Right in front of the bed, you can stand on the scale. And then as you feel your body start to expand in capacity, step towards the heart, right? And then by the time you get there, you just like, you feel it coming through your feet and you literally feel grounded, right? So that's the next point of contact. So it's
like paper. Have you ever heard the paper version of homeopathy where you like write a word and then just imprint it on the water and then drink the water? It's like a version of that in that by in your mind's eye, putting the scale below your feet, you've created the energetic conditions for that to be real within the ether. And then you're putting yourself on that scale physically.
Yeah.
So you're imprinting that onto your body.
Yeah. Yeah. And as you take this, and as long as you step in coherence with where the body is, right? If you try to like rush it, then that's not going to work. But yeah, as long as you go slowly, this is the bridge between the mental part, the psychology, and the somatics.
Yeah.
Right. That's how they communicate with each other.
Yeah.
And so this is doing. And now this is, I call that grounding your decision to sleep. There's a difference between like, oh, well, I wish I could just decide to sleep. I've been trying to do that for years. Yeah. It doesn't work. It's like, okay, because you just haven't put the copper rod into the ground yet.
Got it.
Right. So this grounds that, but so far I've described 2 touchstones, and these are just 2 points of contact, and there's like 5, right?
Okay.
And they kind of mesh in to each other, but we're still expanding. The big change here is somebody's going from this sleep routine where they're like, okay, they're coming up, they haven't really stopped the momentum of the day, or maybe they have, but they're going into this like manual charge separation, trying to create a positive and negative amperage, right? Or they're taking something, they're adding more energy to the system, or they're taking a pill like an antihistamine that numbs the voltage in order to create more differential between amperage and voltage, right? So they're manually trying to create flow. And because they're like, it's like being on the on the frontage road over here, these highway systems, my hotel, it's like you're going 70 miles per hour and you like slow down and take a right and there's people behind you.
You're going 70.
Yeah. That's what I'm like, oh, this is like trying to go to sleep, like, in the frequency of the problem. And so now they're being stretched out. It's like, okay, none of these goals, like we're not really putting you face to face with like, I need to go to sleep. It's like, it's a completely different element. The focus is different, and it's about relationship with your body. It's about relationship with awareness and returning to your, slowly returning to your most aware self, because eventually when your body does go to sleep, this is where you are most aware, right? It's like back to that like fundamental upside downness. And so from here, the next point of contact is just return to the chair, right? And hang out there for as long as you need to. But now you have the capacity to have distance from these thoughts that used to be the problem, right? Now you can witness mapping occurring like 10 feet from you instead of like right on top of you. And you're just sitting there. But it's not like I'm sitting here waiting for my body to get sleepy because I'm feeling determination to get into bed. It's like there's still a little bit of that balancing between, there's still a little bit of determination, potentially. But
it's determination to cultivate awareness.
The reason that I have people sit in the chair and not get into bed yet is because determination is just a reflex.
Yeah.
Right. It's just a bad habit. Yeah. Right. Identifying as the body. So it might come up, but you're not really equipped to be able to, you're not sitting in a chair like trying to go to sleep.
Yeah.
Right. But you may be in a chair and become impatient.
Yeah.
Because
that's what I mean. It's like if the determination that is naturally rising for these people who have become so determined over the course of their patterning up until this point is ultimately leading them in the direction of just cultivating more awareness by being in the chair and doing nothing, then it's at least better determination, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of what I mean.
Yeah. It's just, it's a relationship to determination.
Yeah.
Right. And what they're noticing is that the longer they sit there and that they're not equipped to exercise their determination as they are in bed, the body they're getting this like real-time experience like, oh, it's actually working, right? I don't like the word working, but it's like, oh, I am a part of this capacity building process by staying in the heart or getting, trying to like keep my focus as close to the heart as possible. And they're not causing sleep anymore. They're experiencing the principle that the body sleeps, not the mind, right? Yeah. Because the less they try to manually create charge separation, the more charge separation occurs naturally in the body, right? But it's occurring because of this AC frequency where resistance is lowered and more life force energy, more ether is connecting to the body through that universal sleep program.
Would you say that even within that framework, right, in order to get the natural charge separation where we're not trying to force it, that would mean that getting ourselves in our external environment into a position that is more conducive to that is still relevant, right? Like you're wanting to turn off all of the freaking blue lights above your head.
Right.
And if you have lights on at all, it's only this sort of candle mimicking or fire mimicking wavelength on, ideally incandescent, or just get all of them off after the sun goes down, turn off your Wi-Fi. All of those things are still relevant because they're creating the conditions for the more body-based side of things to occur on that energetics.
Correct. Okay. Absolutely. Yeah. It's not right. Again, we don't throw out the baby.
Right. Makes sense.
Totally makes sense. So and it goes back to also, and I want to be sure to just please don't let us finish without addressing the principle that the purpose of life is to sleep. I want to have a last word with that with people who might be confronted by that, right? So I'm just going to, it's a placeholder here.
Yeah, I got you.
But this whole concept that the idea that the purpose of life is to sleep, like, let me ask you, what is lost, right? If like, oh my God, the purpose isn't to like sleep and then go like, use that energy to go do something with my life. If it's in reverse order, it's like, what do we lose? Right.
I mean, we don't really lose anything. It's just that like, I don't know. I guess it's more so the conditioning that would have us believe that sleep is purely to be able to navigate your waking hours better. You know what I mean? Like that belief. But then again, like sleep is such, or should be such a big part of our lives that to suggest that it is merely so that you can live better would be a little bit absurd.
Yeah.
Likewise, to suggest that it is merely to cultivate the energy necessary to go about life would be absurd.
Right.
It seems that like sleep is an actual aspect of life. It doesn't have to be either life or sleep. It's that sleep is a huge part of what life is.
It is. And we never stop sleeping, right? So that's another, like, that's just a little, like another hook.
Yeah.
Like, I got you. It's like sleep is, you know, you're expressing what you metabolized, right? So it's a 24-hour process. But the point I was getting to is that for like a biohacker listening to this, it's like, it's not saying that anything that you're doing is wrong, right? It's introducing this new, it's like expanding. And so the purpose of life being to sleep is not to reduce anything or take anything away. It's just to say like, oh, yeah, what if a lot of the healing and direction that I'm trying to cultivate during the day is already there or available to me, right, when I sleep. And all that's missing is for me to just become more aware of that, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So nothing's lost from whether you're a non-dualist or a nervous system regulator.
It's for everyone.
Yeah.
I get that. So the next piece after sitting in the chair, what comes after that?
When you get the call to get into bed, and this
what does that call look like?
It's a tap on the shoulder, and you know,
metaphorical sense.
Metaphorical. Yeah. Like, wow, this guy's really getting weird.
There's a dude in a black suit behind you.
Yeah.
Whoa, literally a tap on the shoulder. I did not expect that. He just knocks you out.
Yeah.
That's how you sleep. That's it. No, but like it's getting more in tune with your body so that you can sense when it's like, okay, I feel that it's time to sleep. Like I now can feel inside my own being that sleep is now.
Yeah, the river's already flowing. I don't have to paddle anymore. And logistically, it just looks like, all right, if I don't get out of this chair right now, I'm going to fall asleep, you know? But that's kind of like, that would be if I could only say one thing to somebody, you know, it's like, don't go straight to bed, sit in a chair. Just wait as long as you need to. And I promise you're not going to be there for 3 days like I was, right? If you just sit in the chair, you're going to like, the piss and vinegar is going to run out and you're going to be like, I need to get in that bed or else, you know, I'm going to fall down or hurt my neck, right? So that's what the tap on the shoulder really looks like. So that when you are now in bed and you get into bed, you're already connected to the frequency of sleep. Your body has the capacity to sleep. Let's just call it the way our ancestors did, right? I don't know how accurate, I can't prove that.
Only speculate.
In any way, right? But you are at a different capacity. You're not trying to make yourself fall asleep from bed, right? That's what lowers capacity. That's what like makes it really confusing and where people are like, oh, what's going on? I can't shut off my mind. But now the point of contact once you're in bed is just like pay attention to the pattern, right? There's a pattern here. And that pattern, it's soul God. You can picture yourself on the diagram, the heart. It's just like what you're not doing is trying to help yourself sleep, but there's something to do other than trying to help your body sleep. And it's just, and you can really, I mean, it's kind of crazy, but it's just like, oh, I can feel all my parts communicating with each other and they're all doing it so that I can just experience solitude and be present, right? I'm just here. I'm just neutral at this point and enjoying the experience for what it is, right? It's like, this is why we sleep. It's just like, just to be present. And that's why, you know, be present's that last touchstone. And so the end point is with this neutrality where, wait a second, like I just experienced like a full life in one day, right? And that just seems to make more sense. That we're not here to live one long life where it's just like one sleep, that it's like on this track, right? That climbing a ladder to get the next sleep. It's just like, no, everything kind of completes itself. And then there's a rebirth.
Okay. So for the people who do meditative practices before bed, that in the midst of it, they end up falling asleep. Maybe it's like literally a sleep-focused meditation. What's in your mind, what's happening there is that they're just getting into such a deep state of presence that they naturally just start falling asleep. And like, that's what the meditation is for, whether it's intended to or not. That's what happens. They're becoming so present as their day's winding down, as the body is losing its, as the body's needing more charge, then it naturally creates the conditions for them to just go to sleep. Yeah. And also counting sheep and things like this. That's ultimately what's happening.
I was about to say, it's just like, that's the higher end of the spectrum of like watching a YouTube video to fall asleep or listening to a podcast, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but like when people tell me that like they can't fall asleep without the television on, right? I mean, I did that a lot. That's a lot of people's story. It's like all that's doing is kind of occupying the mind from mapping. And because the mind's not mapping, now the imprints are, they're more available to sleep. The body's not avoiding. And what I man, like I get how people do that, but it's not to say that I want to frame this correctly. Like, you're not supposed to sleep perfectly every night. Mm-hmm. And this is the thing that I want to say about the purpose of life. Like, the purpose of life to sleep doesn't mean like you better go get some sleep tonight because that's what you're here to do, right? Like that, right? That creates tension. It's just like, it's a lifelong relationship, right? Yeah. I've built the most capacity on my journey from nights that I didn't sleep or didn't sleep well because of what I experienced, right? Like the presence with myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Last night in the hotel room, right? Like that was, dude, last night was huge, right? I call that like a huge moment. I felt something change in me, right? Because of resistance. So the capacity is in the resistance. So I understand people that listen to things in order to fall asleep, or if you're meditating, that's not a bad thing. But what energy is saying is that it doesn't want sleep to be transactional. I'm going to meditate so that I can sleep. There's community, there's a relationship that's available to you. Instead of meditating, essentially it's the same mental practice or lack of mental exertion, except it's in relationship with this imprint, right? Like it's in relationship with this unresolved emotion that's stored as charge, right? And understanding that like that is there until I acknowledge that it's okay to be integrated.
Yeah. Got it. If you listen to this show, you are probably well aware that there's something seriously off with our modern food systems. And even a lot of food labeled organic isn't what it seems. Some of it's shipped in from China where regulations are murky at best, and other times companies slap the USDA organic label on while cutting corners and doing the absolute bare minimum in order to achieve that label. That's why Dr. Cowan's Garden exists. Founded by Dr. Tom Cowan, they believe health starts with food, real food, the way that it's supposed to be grown. They call their sourcing beyond organic, which means they're working with small family-run farms who are going above and beyond the USDA organic label when it comes to growing their food. These farms care deeply about soil health and nutrient density, and some are even biodynamic certified, the highest farming standard in the world. At Dr. Cowan's Garden, they use proper processing techniques that humans have used for thousands of years because they actually work. Nuts and grains are soaked or sprouted just as traditional cultures did. Olive oils and apple cider vinegars are never heated, preserving fragile nutrients. Olive oil is protected from light because oxidation matters. The list goes on and on. The products at Dr. Cowan's Garden are made to be deeply nourishing and also incredibly delicious. Foods that you actually enjoy eating and foods that make healthy decisions actually feel good. Dr. Cowan's Garden is not about fads, it's not about fear, and it's definitely not about following government health recommendations. It's about reclaiming a simple trust in your food. If you value transparency, tradition, and food that respects both your body and nature, head to drcowensgarden.com or just head to the show notes and use code THEWAYFORWARD for 15% off your first order. Welcome back to Real Nourishment. For you, how does emotion play into this, right? Like as we're going through the process, whether it's like mapping, whether it's like these 5 touchstones. Yeah, touchstones. Just like, how do you view emotion as it pertains to that? Like if you are feeling the need to cry, is it both sitting with the crying and like being okay to cry, while also observing yourself cry? Like, what does that look like for you? Or what do you guide your clients on who are coming to you for sleep issues?
Yeah, well, the emotion is just, it's an expression of capacity.
Okay.
And then that's part of the release process. Right?
Yeah.
Like the way I see releasing is not like, oh, there's this thing and I just like let spurt out, right? And it's like it's gone, right? It's more like it's an integration process. It's not going to feel lovely necessarily to integrate an emotion or to create the capacity that allows an emotion to express itself. Like, I'll go back to when I was working with Kyle, and he prompted. He's like, I got some questions for you. Here are the rules. You have 3 seconds to answer yes or no. I don't want you to think about it. It's just like the first thing, right? And he's just like, he says, just a yes or no. I am worthy, right? And I just started crying, right? The deepest I've ever cried, right? And so the ironic thing, as I look back on that, as awful is not even the right word. It was such a natural. It was a natural cry, the most like unregulated cry that I've ever had. Right? There was like a loss of mapping, and the ironic thing is, in that moment, I experienced probably the most capacity ever in my life. Right? Because I made contact with the thing that was occupying the most capacity.
Yeah.
Right. So that's how I see emotion. It's just like there's the awareness of the emotion, the experience of the imprint underneath the emotion is in triad with the release that naturally comes. So I always tell people, it's like, expect something. Because if you're not expecting something, that release is going to feel like it's actually coming in. Right? So people will get scared. They're like, I don't know if I can do this. I'm like, yeah, it's like you're having a baby. Right? It's going to feel like you're overwhelmed and that you don't, and that I hate saying the word capacity a million times.
No, I get what you mean though.
But it's like, it's not a buzzword. It's like, it's literal, amperage. And it's like, I've never given birth to a baby, but from what I hear, right? It's like, it feels like it's going to overcome you and then something happens, right? God's intelligence allows this thing to be not released, but integrated.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Like in the moment of the feeling, especially if it's a very scary feeling or it's feelings attached that just have a lot of baggage associated with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. It can feel like absolute hell. It can feel like you're dying in the middle of that. But then if you just be with it on the back end of that, oftentimes I find is bliss, or like for me, a weight off, a heaviness off. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then in addition to that, like I had somebody recently who was having bad dreams and in the dreams saw things that she had forgotten.
Yeah.
She didn't even forget them. She never remembered them because they were so intense. And that really freaked her out because she saw something she didn't know happened to her. Right. And it took a bit. It took a bit. We really had to sit with this for her to realize that she gave permission for this memory to arise, that the memory was coming from expanded capacity, right? This was an integration experience. And she finally got it, that it was coming out, not coming in.
Yeah, it's not coming in to haunt you. It's coming out to be released from you.
Yeah.
You just didn't have the capacity prior to this to even remember that it was there.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's getting decoupled. And so it's in the dream because REM, right? Like the hyper dream state, that's where the emotions get decoupled.
Okay.
But they're waiting until the brain has enough capacity, right? So like that's why some of the concepts are really important to understand before you just go through, well, I'm going to do this thing to sleep, right? It's like, it's part of this bigger process.
No, you need the context.
You need the context.
Totally makes sense.
So then it's like, all right, now that this happened, it's like, go do some body work.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, that's a part of it too. It's like, go tell your body that this thing is okay. Right. It's like a tornado went through. Right. And then once you kind of move things around and then they intelligently settle, now you're starting from this whole new point in life, right? So that's kind of how it can go full circle. And then the trauma integration experience can really be part of not that you can't, but I'd rather spend 5 hours integrating experiences while my body's asleep than taking time out of my day to go into alpha brain and do that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, totally. So I think I have the general frame where you're understanding. And I appreciate the journey that you've brought us on in this episode, because it's like now in hindsight, I see the clear picture of all of it, like how it all fits together. So I want to ask some more practical sleep questions that a lot of people struggle with other than insomnia, right? And just some sleep related questions that are more practically oriented in general. But the first one is like, what is your thoughts on sleep apnea? Like what that experience is and like how you approach someone who's coming to you with sleep apnea.
Yeah. I've never worked directly with somebody who has sleep apnea, but I do have like a huge curiosity, and it stems from I used to just always like, it's out of my pay grade, or it's like that's a mechanical thing.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a very, very, very body-based thing, possibly. It can also relate to the mind, though, too. Like that's...
Yeah. And so it's like, as I've explored things through the energetic lens, as I have more recently, I'm like, oh, wait a second. Okay. What's going on here? And it goes back to this. When I think of sleep apnea, I think of my dad. He's got sleep apnea. And what he told me was that he never had sleep apnea until one night he was falling asleep and he looked out the window. He was 19 years old and he thought he saw a face, and it scared him. And he got up and he responded.
His breath away.
It took his breath away.
Right. Right. Well, like think about that, like with what sleep apnea is too. That's interesting.
Yeah, totally. And so when I finally I came to with that, I'm like, oh yeah, it's a protective mechanism, right? Why would the body, if that experience is unintegrated, why would the body allow you to fall asleep? Why would the brain allow you to fall asleep if it thinks something could happen? And so that's there's the mechanical side of the spectrum, and then there's the energetic side that the person is waiting for some other shoe to drop in some way or form. And so they're not letting themselves be asleep long enough.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. That's a really interesting.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things. And one day we'll see. One day I would like to kind of run that little experiment with people who are. I would never, if somebody's like, oh, I have sleep apnea, try this. It's like if somebody really, wanted to like work with a possibility that it was something deeper and more of a spiritual, physical integration that was like being asked for. I'd be curious to explore that.
Yeah. Another question. So our sleeping situation in my house, I know a lot of other parents deal with this. We're disrupted through the night by a variety of things. Like, we also have a dog, and our dog's had fleas recently. So like he's outside our door just like scratching himself. So that wakes us up. But my youngest sleeps with us. We're co-sleeping with him, and he's a very light sleeper. I'm a very heavy sleeper. My wife is a light sleeper, so her sleep is disrupted quite a bit. My sleep is still disrupted despite being a heavy sleeper quite a bit. And then our two oldest kids will sometimes wake up, and my wife and I play this game where it's always funny, where we go to sleep and we're kind of guessing like what the sleeping arrangements will actually have looked like when we wake up. We go to sleep this way, and like, well, I end up in Charlie's bed. Will Charlie end up in this bed? Because if my daughter comes in the middle of the night, which is happening less and less, thank goodness, she'll literally just kick me out of my spot. There is no there is no compromise. There is no, hey, Charlie, let's go back to your room. And I just don't want her to wake up my wife and my son. So I'm just like, I'll just leave. So I just leave and I go to her room, or I go sleep with my oldest son. But for people who have sleep disrupted, I guess my question is, what is your guidance to them? Is it just like you just deal with it as it's a part of life right now, and understand that yes, sleep is a part of your energetic capacity, but it's not the only thing?
Yeah, I think I hear what you're asking. Like the first, I just love spectrums, right? So the left side of the spectrum I'm hearing is like when there's a newborn, right? And all of a sudden it's like they're waking you up several times throughout the night. It's like, what do you do about that, right? It's just like, you just deal with it, right? People ask me, like, what do you do? I'm like, just life. You're with it. It's life, right? And then on the other side of the spectrum, it's like a little bit of this, like, do I have some influence over what's going on here, right? So like the thing I saw for you all as a family, I'll pause that and go to an example of the thing I learned about energy. With my dogs. I got these two, I miss them. It's the first time I've been separated from them.
Man. Well, thank you for being separated for this.
No, thank you. But the three of us live together and they go with me everywhere, right? And sometimes I can't take them everywhere. But otherwise, they're like in the truck with me. And so I really struggled when I would leave them at home because like I'd come home sometimes and it's just like they'd eat books, right? Like they'd tear the place up. And I couldn't figure out what was going on. And then it hit me, right? It was just like the awareness. I'm like, oh, when I'm leaving the house, right? My energy is hoping that they don't mess things up, that they don't go wild, right? And I'm like, oh, I'm part of this experience. But then one time they scratched the front door, just trying to get out, and I'm like, oh my God, like they're tearing this place up. And this is a few years ago when they were puppies. But I put a bar stool in front of the door so that they wouldn't scratch the door, and then left the house. And I came back. Whatever, it was still a problem. And then the next time I put a bar stool in front of the door, I saw their energy shift. They're like, oh, like he's leaving, right? They connected those dots. And all of a sudden, it's like I came back and the place was like, that day, my dog Bo actually moved a pillow from like one side of the house to the other. It was really funny. I'm like, wow, you actually improved things. And so I was like, oh, okay, I see what's going on here. Like before I leave, I need to set an energetic pace and a condition, right? It sets a tone and we share capacity. So that's kind of what I see coming back to your situation is like, there is a moment, like how beautiful would that be as a family where you sit in a circle, right? And just kind of just connect with each other.
Like adopt a sleep ritual together.
And like what I talked about was sitting in the chair, closing the day. You close the day together. And then I'd put money on that experience being completely different.
It's been better lately, which is great. But there was a period of time though, dude, where literally we could bank on every single night one of our two oldest, if not both of them, coming into our room and like waking all of us up. And it's a lot better now, but we're still trying to figure it out with a 14-month-old. And it's ultimately like, that's just a part of life of having a 14-month-old that's sleeping on top of your wife breastfeeding. Like that's just part of it.
It's a spectrum, but it's like, that's been my big aha through awareness and expanding awareness and becoming more awareness, less mind, right at the right time, is seeing how I'm part of this condition I didn't realize I was creating.
Totally.
That is, I mean, it's a mind blow. And it's just like, wow. I mean, it's like, because sometimes it's like, oh, I swear I did not do that. Like, I know I did not do that thing. And then somebody shows you a video and you're doing the thing. You're like, what?
Totally, man.
It's
reality is a mirror. Reality is relational
humbling.
too. Especially when it comes to kids. Like they're picking up on your energy, or your pets. They're picking up on your energy for sure.
I was recalling the first time I saw myself in a three-way mirror, right? That's what awareness is. I was like, I saw it and I'm like, holy crap, is that really me? Right? I'm like, and I realized whenever I look in the mirror, I'm selling myself on this version of me I think other people need to see for me to be approved, right? And so like you work so hard to hide these parts of yourself that you don't notice them, right? So awareness is that three-way mirror, and it's just a game changer. It's
beautiful. The other three questions that I have, this is a big one. A lot of people feel like they get good sleep. They can fall asleep pretty easily, but they wake up feeling super groggy, and they might have done all the things like turning off the Wi-Fi and stuff like that. Again, it's going to be tailored to the individual, of course, and I'm sure a lot of it will come back to the more energetic side of things. And that's okay if that's this answer. But just generally speaking, like what do you find when someone is able to go to sleep pretty easily, but they always wake up feeling hella groggy? Because I've experienced that in my past.
Yeah, absolutely. I have too. And then that's kind of tied to I don't know if that's one of your questions, waking up in the middle of the night.
Yeah, it actually is.
Okay. Yeah. It comes from the same place, going back to the falling asleep process. One of the aspects of sleep being an art, or what is the art of falling asleep, is establishing capacity, enough capacity in the body. So going back to what we've already covered, if somebody is mapping and then they're using something to distract from the mapping, an episode of your podcast, let's say, their awareness level, you'll still sleep. The mind doesn't sleep, but the body is going to ensure survival, right? So that your body will sleep as long as there's a point where it's like, when I was awake for 3 days, the body's like, okay, I don't care how much you're fighting this. Like, there's no point in fighting that if we're going to die. Right. So you're going to sleep.
You're just going to crash at some point.
Yes. Yeah, you're going to crash. And so this is more of what people experience on a day-to-day basis. And for the most part, what I've noticed is that people who think they're waking up at 3 a.m. because of like a kidney or liver issue, they're not in relationship to this concept of falling asleep from the proper capacity. Right. And so if I'm actually mid-mapping, but then I stop mapping because of distraction or a supplement, and I never really resolved that symbiotic relationship between mind and body, right? That is going on while the body is sleeping, but the body's like, okay, I'm just going to do, hang on, sort of the way I clean my house when somebody's coming over, like, all right, I'm just going to do the basics, sweep things under the rug, all right? Like, quick job, right? And then you wait and you're like, oh man, why I cleaned? Why is this like, why is there so much dust? And it's like, okay, it was like a minimal job, right? And so that's what I believe is going on there.
That makes sense. That hits intuitively for me. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You're not fully like even closing the loops on the day, and that makes a lot of sense.
It's back
as an example.
It's back to like life being one long day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's why it's closing the loop and living one day at a time, and then also creating that point of contact that creates the proper flow, right? That you can feel before, like it's important to like have a way to put the copper rod in the ground and connect to what's happening.
Yeah.
So like if somebody's experiencing the 3 o'clock in the morning thing, now they're not going to be able to help but notice before they go to bed, like, oh, is there more capacity available to me? Right? That's what I want people to really connect to.
That's cool. That's cool. The last question I have is, I feel like, I don't even know if this is an appropriate question, but I'm just curious. In your mind, what is the appropriate amount of sleep? Because a lot of people, I just saw this chart the other day as an example. A lot of people will say that our ancestors slept a lot more than we currently do, and that from the 1900s onward, if you look at the trajectory of how much sleep various age groups got, like especially with teenagers, I forget the exact number, and previous to the 1940s and 1930s would get like 10 hours of sleep a night. Now they're getting like 6 to 7 hours of sleep a night. But then I hear stories of people, I think if I remember correctly, Nikola Tesla, like he got like very little sleep every night. And some of these other so-called geniuses throughout history got very little sleep at night, but then they were also getting revelations quite a bit during their sleep. So maybe like they had such a high capacity and they were in such balance that they didn't need as much sleep because they got all the revelation they need. Their body got all the charge that it needed, and then they were back to their day. But just in general, from your perspective, how much sleep should we be getting? Or is there not a one size fits all? Everyone should be getting this amount of sleep, or this age group always gets this amount of sleep?
Yeah, there is no definitive answer. I'll start with this. Like last night, there's a hotel room, right? I'm sleeping in a microwave. There's like, I put my phone on airplane mode. I'm like, what's the point of this?
Yeah, seriously.
But there's noises in the parking lot, people above me. But I woke up at 1:30, and I was so tempted to just get up and go. I was like, boom, because I had such a lovely experience right before that. It just felt complete, right? So it's like sleep hard, right? Like that's that concept that I'd rather get 2 hours from the frequency of sleep than 8 hours otherwise, right? So, and then it's on a spectrum, and it's about a relationship to sleep. So it's like sleep is it's a very personal thing, and goes back to the purpose of life being to sleep. It's like it's your relationship to why that's happening. If it's happening, do you want more? What's behind that, right? And it's getting the sleep that you metabolized, right? That's an important part, because that's where that intelligence is coming from. So I think if people are getting the sleep they metabolized, they stop suffering and they feel self-informed, and they feel like they're being guided by something else, right? So like I've had a client recently who was really torn about wanting a certain amount of hours of sleep, yet she was in that cycle, the frequency of the problem, whereas like I don't have energy because I can't sleep, but then I can't sleep because I'm not able to go spend energy, right? And like try to make myself tired. And it's like, well, okay, if you're resting, if your capacity for self-care right now is laying on the couch during the day, reading a book, taking naps here and there, well, the metabolism that's taking place doesn't constitute 8 hours of sleep, right? And so you can get into relationship with like, oh, I see. Like when you get out of this expectation that's been placed there by who knows who, I kind of know who might have placed that there, right? But there's this like idea of needing to sleep a certain amount, and that really influencing, what would that be? It's like,
I'm bad or wrong if I don't get that amount. I'm doing it incorrectly. I'm not healthy. All the ideas that come, all the stories that come with that.
Or when you wake up in the middle of the night and you look at the clock, you're like, please don't be 3:30. Please be like 5:45, right? And then if the clock were wrong or switched, or somebody was playing a joke on you and it was really 5:45, but it said 3:30, right? Now it's like a placebo type thing.
Yeah,
or nocebo,
totally. Totally. It's wild.
All of it, right?
Yeah.
And so you can wake up at 3:30 in the morning thinking that you woke up at 5:45 and go out and have a badass day, right? Just because of your relationship to that. So I don't think there's a set hour. I think that as long as you are becoming more aware on a nightly basis or a weekly basis or a lifelong basis, that's what the purpose of sleep is to bring us into awareness. Because from awareness, we're more efficient. With our energy, we contribute to the whole and through our individuality more. So it's not about a number of hours of sleep. And that's totally, I'm glad you asked that question, because that's what I want people to understand. It's like the purpose of life being to sleep is not about putting more pressure. It's saying it's not about the hours. It's just about you developing this relationship through awareness to how you're actually behaving in the world, and how much energy you didn't realize that you were borrowing from your body. And so it's just an act of self-love to come to awareness and allow your body to take that back. That is the most important thing, not the number of hours.
Love it. Love it. Just a quick aside too. Anytime in college, especially for some reason, I think it's because like when I was at West Point, I got like 5 to 6 hours a night, and definitely bought into the idea that I needed a lot more. Because there's a narrative around like cadets, this isn't overtly stated at West Point, but cadets at West Point, you don't get that much sleep because you're having to balance academics, athletics, and military life. And when I would wake up in the middle of the night at like 3 or 2, I would be so happy because I'm like, oh, I'm waking up and I still have more sleep to go.
Right.
Go right back to sleep. When I would wake up and it's like 5:30 and I knew I had to be up in like 20 minutes, I'd be like, fuck, like that sucks.
Yeah.
It sucks so bad. I think it still happens to me sometimes to this day. Like, yes, it's frustrating when my kids disrupt my sleep, but if I wake up, look over at the time and it's like, oh, it's 1 a.m. I still have plenty of sleep to go. Amazing.
That was the reframe that I started out with.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh, you get to go back to sleep. And it reminds me when I was a kid, I'd have my parents wake me up on the weekend. So that's the only time I could sleep during the morning, right?
Yeah.
Like I would in summers, I wouldn't fall asleep until the sun came up. Like I'd make myself stay up because I was scared, right? And I would have my parents wake me up just so that I could make the decision to go, like to experience that luxury of going back to sleep.
I get to go back to sleep now. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
But like the last thing I'll say about that is like, we know when we didn't get enough sleep.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the thing. So it's like, that's the bigger part of the relationship. It's like some people really excel with like 6 hours of sleep. Some people need 9, right? And they know they need 9. And it's just like, awesome. Like you do you, right? And then some people, like myself, have a relationship to sleep for a reason, right? Maybe it's so I could talk about it in a different way than people are used to talking about it. Or maybe it's just the way for me to burn that fuel, you know, that's been trapped in me in the most useful, purposeful way. And so like what I'm saying is like, it may not, to have a life that's like filled perfectly with sleep, that's not for everybody. You know, it's like it's easy to predetermine what your sleep should be, right? It's like some people, if it's like what's today, June 12th or something like that, it's easy to like pre-establish how much sleep I want to get June 12th, 2027.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And you carry this like built up agenda into the future, right? Sleep is a call response event, right? It is not about in a physiological sense, it's not about tomorrow. You don't like type into an app and say, this is what I got to do tomorrow. Will you get me this sleep tonight? Right? It's just, you metabolized it. It's what you did today. And it's just a call and response to that. And
it's a relationship on a daily basis.
On a daily basis.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. And it's already happened. Like you earned your sleep already. And that's where it comes down to this, like, why would you use a battery DC style way of trying to improve amperage and voltage, right? When that sleep was already earned, like it already took place. Like, this is why it's important to like connect to God at the heart, connect to your ability to allow your body to take energy and lower resistance, so that is the fundamental like limitless ceiling that's created so that the battery can do its work.
Love it. So if people want to work with you, we put all the stuff in the show notes so they can check it out there. As we're closing up, I don't know if you had anything loose ends related to life being about sleep. I think that you still wanted to cover something. Correct me if I'm wrong. You may have already covered it though.
I think I've beat that dead horse.
Really get it in your mind. Okay, everyone. But is there anything else you'd like to share as we're closing up?
Yeah. You know, I think the transition that I'm going into with this right now is my mission is for somebody to be able to listen to this podcast. Like I want to work with people, and I'm shifting now towards, I have this membership idea. It's really easy, not just like an easy membership where somebody can come in. And if you go back to when we're talking about the 5 touchstones, that's an online course, right? What you and I talked about is an online course. So like nothing would make me feel like just more giddy than if somebody listened to that, their sleep changed and they had an experience, right? Like I don't need to know about it, but like that was my intention. Yeah. Right.
Well, you'd already mentioned like during Confluence though, that during your workshop, you shared some of these principles and then people applied it that night and then slept better that night, literally that very night.
Right. Yeah. So
it's awesome.
And that's what I was saying to you earlier. It's like, yeah, there's a spectrum where like, okay, try this right now. And you want to go down this 5-year rabbit hole with me where the vortex of this regenerational sleep model is going to continue informing itself, and you can be a part of this, right? And you can take like the long road, but you can also start with the short road, right? So that's where I'm at now with this, is that I'd love for people to watch from afar and make a change, right? Start sleeping better. But if you want to get into this like bigger love story that sleep is telling, and jump into like the experience and how this is a 24-hour process, well then come hang out and we'll do some workshops and explore this.
Oh, so you want to do like some sleep related retreats and stuff like that, essentially?
Yeah, I've already started doing that, but this is really just about, I mean, it's me getting out of the frequency of the problem with like my business model, where I had been trying to create courses where I pre-record them and then deliver it. And it's just, I'm a mess, right? This is how I work.
Yeah.
Right. I want to sit down with somebody. I need that like just symbiotic connection. And so I can get on a Zoom with 10 people and conduct a workshop so much faster than I can pre-record something, And so I'm like, hey, let's do that. Let's do that together, right? Yeah. Let's have all these individual Q&As and teachings and things and learn this together, right? Form a community that way. So it's just, that's where I want this to go, because it used to sound crazy to me, but it's just like, what I want is for this to develop into something that exists after me, right? Mm-hmm. I want it to go, it's an emerging modality, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just starting. And
I don't know anyone else talking about sleep like this.
Well, and I do feel like there's a seat at the table, even though there's like thousands of modalities, right? But I meant
that in a good way, by the way. Like it's unique.
I took it that way. Yeah. I do think it's needed.
Yep.
Because I think sleep, as important, as vital as it is it's become forgotten, right? We've collectively stopped revering it the way I think it was designed to be revered. So we're going through an adaptation process. And the quickest way through adaptation is this thing that we're already doing. It's already happening. And if we just relate to it in a different way, now it's like energy's working efficiently. So for me, it's like an old me would be like, oh, I don't want to tell you what the process is, because then, I can't charge that person for it's just like, dude, take it. Mm-hmm. Take it, please take it. Nothing would make me happier, right?
Yeah.
And so, but I got 2 Mastiffs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you got stuff to pay for in your life.
It's like $150 a month.
It's a balance. It's a balance, man. It's just the hope, and it's the same thing with this podcast. So like this podcast is free, and then I have my offerings and the membership that like require a nominal like monthly payment paid over the course of a year, but it's the hope that I'm putting out so much good into the world that it will come back to me in ways that provide. And that's always turned out to be true, and in some cases it has required where I was too scared to ask my community and my followers and my listeners that I needed some help. And God nudged me that you need to directly ask. And then it worked. It's like, It's all of it,
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah. And people, this is what I love about this community and seeing what you've created, you and your team has created is this regenerational thing. Last year, not this conference, but the one before, I don't know if you remember, but it was during Veda Austin's talk, I believe, Point of Contact, Charge Separation Through Consciousness. Veda Austin's, I know you're big on her work.
Yep.
Gerald Pollack, DC model.
Yep.
Veda Austin, AC model.
Yeah,
right?
dude, that's a really good way to look at it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And they depend on each other.
Yeah.
Right. But you came over, you said something, and I said, hey man, I'd love to sit with you and show you what you created, like on paper, on a diagram. I want to draw it out for you. Right.
Yeah.
Like I've felt this connection to you through that way of seeing you follow this path that was laid out before you, where you're using your imprints as fuel and you're creating something bigger than yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And seeing the way people respond, and they're like, yeah, no, of course, right? Like whatever you need, right? People will give you the shirt off of their back, as would I,
Yeah.
Right. Like I really,
and that's what I to them. And that's the cool thing. It's like,
yeah. And you know, it's like, it's the same, like the way I feel being here, as you talked about, like it started in a men's group. I had no agenda, you know, but it sort of feels like getting my first start, like at first base for the Yankees, but I came up through the farm system.
Yeah. Got it.
So it's like to me, that's what a regenerational vortexical model looks like.
Yeah.
It's informing itself, right? I helped people at Confluence sleep at Confluence, and now I'm on your podcast, hopefully helping more people sleep, right? We're AC/DC.
It's awesome. I love that, dude. With better haircuts.
Yeah.
Derek, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for being here with me, brother.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.